Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-2.
Welcome to the August 11th, 2025 public hearing of the Planning Commission on City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. For those attending in person and wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for the local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. To all participants, please note that tonight's hearing concerns proposed changes to the comprehensive plan. Presentations should not include matters related to zoning applications and site plans that are not before the commission. Zoning conditions are not relevant to the plan amendments and may not be considered by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission's purview in making a recommendation is limited to consistency or inconsistency with the comprehensive plan. With that, I'd like to please ask the clerk to go ahead and call roll.
Good evening. Bowden?
Here.
Buzza? Cardenas?
Here.
Kona? Kress?
Here.
Kugler?
Here.
Linkus?
Here.
Lauk? Sieben?
Here.
Orton?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
And Joseph.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Our first agenda item is 2A, TACPA 24-18, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 84 Davis Boulevard, and the presenter is Danny Collins.
Good evening, Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. Today I'll be presenting TACPA 24-18. It is a map amendment for the site located at 84 Davis Boulevard. The request is privately initiated. It's small scale in size. It is approximately 1.6 acres. The adopted future land use is residential 50, and the request is to change the future land use to community mixed use 35. The subject site is located in the the Central Tampa Planning District. It's within the Davis Islands Urban Village, within the Davis Islands neighborhood, and it's within the coastal high hazard area. It is shown here on our general location map. The subject site is located at the southwest corner of Adelia Avenue and Davis Boulevard. It's outlined in this yellow color. It is currently occupied by the Marisol, which is a 7-story, 58-unit multifamily building, which was originally constructed in 1926 as a hotel and later converted into apartments in the 1960s. The building's approximately developed up to a 0.81 FAR and is currently has a density of 36 dwelling units per acre. Although the Marisol is nearly 99 years old, it is not currently subject to any historic preservation measures. It is not designated as a local historic landmark, nor is it listed on the National Registers of Historic Places. However, it may still be eligible for historic designation in the future. The surrounding area contains a mix of housing types, including multifamily, residential, single-family detached homes, and two-family dwellings. We have single-family detached to the west of the subject site along Baltic Circle, Adelia Avenue, as well as to the north of the site. We do have some multifamily townhomes present along Davis Boulevard, up and along Davis Boulevard. We have approximately 1 block south of the site. We have Davis Island's Apex Park, and then 1 block to the east, we have the Marjorie Park Yacht Basin over here to the east of the site. I do want to note the site is located approximately half mile south of Tampa General Hospital and is near commercial services and amenities up and along Davis Boulevard. This is an image looking at the subject site from Davis Boulevard. That's the Marisol. This is looking northwest along Davis Boulevard. The subject site is on the left. This is looking southeast along Davis Boulevard. The subject site is on the right. So this is the Marisol. This is looking north at the subject site. And this is looking at a home adjacent to the site along Adelia Avenue. There are homes, single-family detached homes adjacent to the site along Baltic Circle, and this one along Adelia Avenue. And just for reference, the Marisol is directly adjacent to the site over here. Here is the adopted future land use map. So currently the subject site's designated under the residential 50 future land use designation, which is a high density residential future land use designation. It is immediately adjacent to residential 6, which is this yellow color that is found along Adelia Avenue and Baltic Circle. That is one of our lower density land use categories. So as you can see, there is a kind of immediate transition between high and low density currently. Just to the north of the site along Adelia, we have residential 10, which is this tannish color here. And then up and along Davis Boulevard, we have the residential 35, which is the medium density residential designation. The proposed future land use of the site is community mixed use 35. So this is a medium density intensity future land use category that kind of encourages a mixed use development pattern, allows anything from commercial general uses to multifamily townhomes on the site. So currently under the residential 50 designation, the site can be considered for 80 dwelling units or approximately 69,696 square feet of non-residential uses. It is important to note that any non-residential development of the site under the residential 50 must meet commercial locational criteria. As proposed under the CMU 35 designation, the site can be considered for 56 dwelling units or approximately 139,372 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. The proposed amendment could introduce commercial general uses on the site and potentially increase both residential and non-residential square footage, which possibly exceeds the maximum density permitted under the currently adopted R50 designation. It is important to note that even though it appears the density is decreasing through this request, the CMU 35 allows the applicant to utilize FAR, which could allow for even a higher density above what can be considered under the R50 designation. We sent this out to our partner reviewing agencies, and the City of Tampa staff objected to the request. We reviewed this for consistency with the comprehensive plan and found that the request there was a number of policies that kind of applied to the request. It was consistent with policies that spoke to promoting a compact city form strategy, promoting mixed use, and also ensuring an adequate supply of housing is available to meet Tampa's housing needs. However, the request was found inconsistent with policies related to neighborhood compatibility and directing future populations away from the Coastal Hazard area. While the R50 designation could be viewed as an immediate transition from nearby R6 areas, the CMU 35 designation represents a more abrupt change. This could result in a massing and scale that is out of character with the surrounding neighborhood, which conflicts with policies that seek to preserve neighborhood compatibility and ensure compatible development. Additionally, the request was found inconsistent with coastal high hazard area related policies. While the proposed amendment reduces the density from 50 to 35 dwelling units, the CMU 35 designation allows FAR to be utilized for residential development, potentially leading to a significant increase in residential units in the coastal hazard area. This could lead to a net increase in residential density within the coastal hazard area, conflicting with policies that direct future population growth away from the coastal high hazard area. In conclusion, while the proposed CMU 35 designation aligns with several comprehensive plan policies, such as promoting mixed use, increasing housing options, and concentrating growth in urban villages, the Planning Commission staff found the concerns regarding public safety, neighborhood compatibility, and increased density within the coastal high hazard area outweigh the potential benefits of a mixed-use development on this site. And based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening. Happy first day of school to those who celebrate. My name is Tyler Hudson, and my address is 400 North Ashley Drive. I've got the privilege of representing Frank and Lindsay Carriera. They're the owners of 84 Davis Boulevard, the Mirasol Apartments, and they are the visionaries behind the proposed readaptation of this project back to its original use as a hotel. So back to the color maps. I think Danny did a great job, as usual, sort of laying things out. Zooming out a little bit more and not just looking at this intersection, Davis Island has a really interesting mix of land use designations, from public, semi-public, which is a somewhat obscure category that has actually no FAR limitation at all, hence Tampa General Hospital, all the way down to R6. As I'll talk about again, and not for the last time, R50 is present on one parcel of land on Davis Island, and it's the subject parcel here. As you can see from this zoom out, there already is a precedent of CMU 35 on Davis Island, but it's predominantly along East Davis Boulevard, and it's predominantly really only on the north side of the island. The southern part of the island is characterized by almost exclusively low-density residential land use. Another word that you're going to hear me say a lot, and I have a hard time pronouncing, is arterial. This is an arterial roadway. That's the most intensive roadway classification that the city of Tampa has. So right in front of the parcel that we're speaking of today, it's a 4-lane road. That is, and again, I want to reiterate that the precedent that's already been established on Davis Island of compact CMU 35 and what's referred to sort of as the village, that sort of retail core of Davis Island, we're not seeking to break the precedent of locating CMU 35 along an arterial roadway. As this commission knows from the hundreds of these that you have had the privilege of hearing, mixed-use land use designations are quite common along arterial roadways. It's actually a little bit more unusual to have such a high-density residential-only category on an arterial roadway like that. Okay, so let's zoom in and get very specific. I mentioned this once, I'll probably mention it again. This is the only piece of R50 land on the entire island. This has always been different. Just for comparison, R50, along with R83, that's the most dense residential category in your comprehensive plan. R50 is probably number 2. Where it's not a very prevalent category. Some of the Bayshore condominiums have that. It's the western portion of the Ritz-Carlton Towers has that. The Stovall condominium to the south has that. It is a high density category, as Danny alluded to. And the fact that this piece of land has always been treated differently, I think bears consideration as you hear the rest of our arguments this evening and in rebuttal. So again, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to match the same land use designation that already exists just one block away on Bosphorus. I think we're pretty familiar with this table at this point. This is technically a decrease in density, but this is a very good example of the type of project that reveals the difference between FAR intensity and dwelling units per acre density. So this is a decrease in what you could do just in terms of units. However, most folks choose to develop based on FAR. You have to do that for a mixed-use development. So we agree that this does create an increase in intensity. However, it is a significant decrease in the density allowable. Before we get back, I want to go back here again. One thing that I do want to mention, and I'll probably mention this again later, is that if you look at what is just a 10-minute walk north of this piece of land is Tampa General Hospital. They have almost 10,000 employees. They saw almost 1 million patients in 2024. They have 2 million square feet of development on site. Not a single hotel serves that critical employment center that we talk about all the time. People come from all over the world to benefit from the state-of-the-art, state-of-the-world medical care. They have a TGH. They have no place to stay on Davis Island other than perhaps some occasional Airbnbs, which I know are quite unpopular with the people assembled here. So I do want to make that clear that Davis Island is a very unique place. It does not have a lot of high-intensity uses other than the only level 1 trauma center in this entire region, which is a 10-minute walk to the north. Having, Danny alluded to this juxtaposition of R6, the yellow category, which is a low-density residential category, the lowest actually, with CMU 35. That's not some crazy thing. That's actually a fairly common development pattern on places like Beta Bay, on Henderson, Dale Mabry, West Shore, where commercial use developed under CMU 35 standards coexists alongside low-density residential development, and yet the sun still rises in the morning. We can't talk about the PD, can't talk about zoning. I'm definitely gonna have to mention that again. We can talk about the building that's there now. The DP Davis dredged the islands in the mid-1920s. It was in 1926 that the Hotel Mirasol opened up. The architect was Martin Hampton. He was a protege and a contemporary of Addison Meisner, famous Palm Beach architect who did some really cool Mediterranean revival stuff down at Palm Beach. It's a gorgeous building. At the time it was constructed, it was definitely the tallest building on Davis Island, the most prominent one until Tampa General has grown just a bit over the years. But it's there. It's there now. Like the homes of probably many of the folks who are here this evening, it sustained significant damage from the hurricanes. Having a basement is not ideal on an island. Having a basement that is full of the mechanical equipment for your old building is very not ideal, but that's the case. And nonetheless, because this is a labor of love, Frank and Lizzie have spent an enormous amount of time and resources to get residents that already live there back in. But this is really a crown jewel of Davis Island, and we are filing this in support of preserving it. This is the most important slide on screen. Hotel use is prohibited in R50. And to sort of show the math here, you'll recall that all your future land use designations have a consistency matrix requiring a consistency between the comp plan and the downstream zoning category. While CN uses are allowed under R50, some commercial uses are allowed under the current zoning designation, hotel is not one. That is a CG use. So that is the impetus for filing this. We have to file this in order to be allowed to ask the city to let us include that as a use in our zoning. We are asking for you to change what we can ask for. That's the core of this. And there's several goals, there's language throughout the comprehensive plan. It's not the most significant section that talks about preserving historic resources. Danny accurately described the current regulatory state of the building, but this applies to historic buildings, which is what this is. This is one of the most, if not the most historic, and certainly I'd say of the historic buildings on Davis Islands, the most prominent building still left in operation. I think we hit the nail on the head pretty hard on the arterial roadway thing. One thing, though, I would mention is that it's not all of East Davis Boulevard that's an arterial roadway. The land that we're talking about here is at the terminus of the point where it is considered an arterial. If you go past south of the village, I think you've got a harder argument. I'd have a pretty hard argument to make that when you get that far south, this type of CMU 35 would be appropriate. But this is an arterial roadway, no less than any portion of McDill or Gandy or Henderson or other main thoroughfares in South Tampa. Okay, so let's talk about some of the concerns that Danny mentioned. You all may have heard about the coastal high hazard area. We've talked about that a lot at many hearings. One thing, I'm going to kind of take this in a little bit of a different direction than we typically do. As mentioned earlier, this building got hit, as did nearly every building on Davis Island. And I think one of the concerns, one of the more reasonable concerns after we recalibrate and look at what happened to the city after the hurricane is that new buildings fared better than old ones. New buildings fared better than old ones. Buildings that meet new Florida building code post Andrew ones that meet the incredibly stringent regulations of the floodplain management rules that the city of Tampa has the most strict interpretations of anywhere else in the region. And if anyone's ever tried to pull a permit here, they know that. Allowing this development to move forward, which you're just really opening the door for us to go try to open another door, it's going to require the building and any other developments that are, for example, on surface parking lots facing the water, it's going to require those to come up to the new code to be safer. We are proposing this to be a hotel with some multifamily development on those parking lots, but this poses far less of a risk from a coastal high hazard because of the necessity of this new regulation that it would need to be brought up to speed for. Compatibility, love Danny. I think compatibility discussions in the context of a comprehensive plan amendment are really challenging because it is very difficult to make a determination about compatibility in the complete absence of what the building looks like. We're going to have a very robust discussion, as we've had since late 2023, with neighbors, with the many, many people who love their neighborhood on Davis Islands, many of whom are joining us tonight. In the context of this comprehensive plan discussion, it is entirely theoretical. The notion to say that compatibility is the reason to say that this is inconsistent is to say that it is impossible. It is not possible in any way to craft a development scheme that allows for the height step downs, the buffering, things like that developers use to try to thread that needle when you have different densities in different land use categories. So if we could condition this comp plan amendment to say we're going to make it super compatible or we're going to impose a height limit or something like that, we would, but we can't. We're just not there yet. That's not the stage at which we are. There are several plans, and Danny alluded to this in the comprehensive plan, that I think support this. There's a discussion 212 about underutilized sites, and Alex is going to pass these around so you'll have them when it comes to motion time, hopefully. Right now, you've got a surface parking lot on Davis Islands that faces the water. I would say that portion of the land, that is underutilized. There's policies addressing heritage assets, the unique history, sense of community identity. I think the Mirasol, in its form as a hotel, will really embody that. This is a community asset that Frank and Lindsay have spent, again, enormous time and resources stewarding and building for the next generation. Allowing us to ask for this and show what we can do with this as a hotel furthers these comprehensive plan policies. And as I wrap up, so do these historic preservation policies. You can't think about the PD zoning. It is out there. There's much discussion of it. The building's there. It's been there for 99 years. It's been there longer than any of us. You can consider that building is there and that we are trying to preserve that and that its original use from 1926 to 1966 was as a hotel, something that the current regulation, born long after the conversion, now prohibits. We're trying to undo that. That's what we're here for. And finally, I want to be really clear, this has zero regulatory effect, what's on screen. I didn't write that little disclaimer. That was from the plan. But Davis Islands does have a neighborhood plan, and the only reason I bring this up is that it does show that there is an expectation of that red mixed use along East Davis Boulevard. That's why East Davis Boulevard already has CMU 35 in places. And that's why we're asking for it here, because we believe it's entirely reasonable in light of the development pattern around there and the development that we're trying to bring to this portion of the island. I think a high density, apartment only, condo only land use does not make sense for this particular piece of land because there's a very particular building on it. And that's what we're trying to save. So thank you all for your patience. I know we're gonna have a lot of input and I'll speak to you again in rebuttal. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. We did have quite a few people sign up for the public comment on this one, so I will start off with a couple people we had virtually and try a Lisa Coleman. Is Lisa Coleman on the line?
Lisa Coleman did not check in.
Okay, what about Drew Rourke? Is Drew Rourke on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So my name is Drew Rourke. I'm with Alex Work Engineering. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Florida. I specialize in traffic engineering. And I've practiced traffic engineering for 30 years this month. I'm a lifelong resident of Florida, received my bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of South Florida, served as an adjunct professor at the FAMU and FSU College of Engineering, where I taught transportation engineering. And I've completed hundreds of traffic analyses all over the state of Florida. So my company was retained by some of the residents in the area that are concerned about the proposed changes. So we did an estimate of the amount of trips, vehicle trips, that could occur under the proposed land use amendment and compared it to the current existing use. Since as your staff pointed out, since the amendment would allow for 139,372 square feet of commercial, we use that as the potential scenario for the proposed amendment. This level of land use, this land use falls under ITE code 821 in the trip generation manual. And the existing use is 58 multifamily dwelling units, which corresponds to land use code 221. So we evaluated the AM peak hour, the PM peak hour, and the daily trip generation estimates, and we compared them to the existing use to the potential commercial use that's described. So just looking at the daily trip generation for both scenarios, the existing use is estimated to generate 263 trips per day, where the potential scenario under this proposed land use amendment is estimated to generate 13,169 trips per day. That's a 4,900% increase in potential trips over the current use. So the potential increase in traffic, if this amendment is passed, is enormous. That's my piece, and I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this analysis.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have George H. Jody in brackets Thompson.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jody Thompson. I live at 91 Davis Boulevard, which is almost directly across Davis Boulevard from the Marisol. I moved to Davis Island 25 years ago to take a job as a professor at the University of Tampa. I teach courses in the College of Business, specifically management and entrepreneurship. You're probably not surprised to learn that I am an advocate for innovation, economic development, and free enterprise of all kinds. I like for companies to grow and create jobs and to serve their customers really well. And I like for leaders to become successful in our city. I'm proud of where I live, and I like living here. But economic development must be consensual among the stakeholders who are impacted by the development. I believe it is unfair and unreasonable for the developer to earn the profits on this project while the neighbors bear the costs of increased traffic, noise, and inconvenience forever. I bet most people in this neighborhood are familiar with Trader Joe's at the corner of Swan and Dale Mabry. I don't have the math to do the engineering studies like the previous speaker, but I know most of you, if not everyone, has experienced the traffic jam and the congestion at that intersection. It creates dangerous traffic conditions and a huge nuisance for the nearby businesses due to parking overflows. I'm 100% certain that the same thing will happen at the Marisol if the developer's plans are approved. In closing, I have a business idea. Riviera Circle is on the southwest part of Davis Island. I think it would be a great location for a hotel. The developer could buy 3 houses, apply for rezoning, knock those houses down, and build a hotel there. Now, some of you might be laughing. I know there are many reasons to oppose this idea. And you know what probably the biggest reason to oppose this idea is? None of the developer's neighbors or himself probably want to live near a hotel. So he's trying to develop a hotel in my neighborhood, and I think he should consider building one in his own neighborhood instead. Why is he doing it to us, something that he doesn't want in his own neighborhood? Thank you for your time. I've finished.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Pat McCrink.
Pat did not sign in.
All right. Oh, he's here in person. Good transition.
So good evening. My name is Pat McCrink. I live at 121 Adelia Avenue. I've lived on Davis Island for 20 years, and I've been on Adelia for 17. The street itself, like most people on Davis Island, we suffered flood damage last September with Hurricane Helene. And so we went through the whole process of repairing our home, my wife Tracy, my daughter Nikki, to really figure out like what our next steps are. So we got our home repaired, and then we're really figuring out what is next steps for us. You know, we love the island, we love our street, and we love our neighbors. And so we debated, do we go to higher ground? What do we do? And so we made the decision, because of the neighborhood itself, the street and our neighbors, we're going to raise our house. And so that is something we're doing at our own expense. It's extremely expensive, and it's something that, you know, as we go through this process, it's a little concerning not knowing what's going to take place on our street, Adelia, which is a relatively quiet street. Everybody, the neighbors know each other. There's kids up and down the street. I'm concerned about the congestion, the potential Ubers up and down the street, and everything. So I hope that you don't approve it, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Next up, I'm going to in-person people, and I'm going to call everyone in groups of 3 because we have people inside this room, outside this room, on delays. I don't know where people are coming from. So if you hear your name called, start to make your way over here. So the first 3 I have are Linda Meisner, Jane Graham, and Sarah L. Sarah Lesh. It's Linda Meisner, Jane Graham, Sarah Lesh.
Hi, I'm Linda Meisner. I've lived at 55 Adelia for 30 years on Davis Island, and Adelia is a 2-lane road, not a 4-lane road. I own multiple properties on the island, including one on Davis Boulevard, less than 500 feet from the Mirasol. Residents do not want or need a large commercial complex on our island. We chose to live on Davis Islands because we like the small town neighborhood feel. This zoning change to commercial is not in line with that style of living. And we are Davis Island. We don't want to be Dale Mabry, McDill, Beta Bay. As he compared our road to theirs, we don't even have a traffic light. That has nothing to do. We have nothing to do with those huge commercial thoroughfares. Davis Island, Davis Boulevard might be a 4-lane road, but it's a very small, quiet 4-lane road with no traffic lights and multiple crosswalks that are already somewhat dangerous. And if we start to allow for commercial projects and parking garages in the middle of a completely residential area, what is next? Where does this non-conforming development stop? With Davis Island being a coastal high-hazard area, shouldn't that in itself disqualify major development and increase density and intensity? I mean, this change in zoning is completely inconsistent with the coastal high-hazard area. I went to the comprehensive plan meeting on Davis Island, and the commission representative there stated that the plan goal was not to increase density on the island. This is in direct force against that. Flooding on Davis Boulevard, even during a regular rainstorm, is bad. All 4 lanes of Davis already flood just from a summer storm. During Hurricane Helene, the Mirasol, along with all of our properties and our neighbors' properties, significantly flooded with approximately 3 feet of water. We personally lost multiple vehicles and sustained serious damage to our properties. This is very much due to the overbuilding being allowed on Davis Island, along with the aging floodwater infrastructure, and it will only get worse without a major flood plan upgrade. Yet there is no plan in the works to even support all the large new residential homes being built on Davis Island. We already have significant traffic and can't handle more. It will make a busy street downright dangerous. Pedestrians, walkers, and bikers already take their life in their hands trying to cross Davis Boulevard, even at the crosswalks. My dog and I get almost run down, and we have to wait for cars to stop. It's ridiculous. And our emergency services can't handle this. The owners of the Mirasol bought a 100-year-old residential building and now want to change it to a commercial complex. The neighbors don't want it changed. This entire change is ridiculous. Please do not support the zoning change to commercial in our residential neighborhood, already plagued with overbuilding, serious flooding, and excessive traffic. The neighbors do not want these changes. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Jane Graham.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Jane Graham, attorney at Sunshine City Law. I represent John and Anna Murray, who have lived at 122 Adalia Avenue for over 30 years, 2 doors down from the Marisol. The Murrays support the Planning Commission staff and city staff's findings of inconsistency and strongly urge denial. It is inconsistent with numerous sections of the comprehensive plan, doubling the existing intensity, introducing a broad range of incompatible commercial uses, negatively impacting the quality of life, safety, and character, and aggravating safety during hurricane evacuations. The increase of intensity from Res 50 to CMU 35 is incompatible and out of scale with the surrounding single-family home neighborhood. The staff report explains that the site's overall intensity could more than double compared with existing development. You heard tonight from a traffic engineer who explains what that actually means for potential traffic. The current land use, R50, transitions well to R6, the single-family residential area, whereas CMU 35 to a R6, as the staff noted, is abrupt change, conflicting with numerous comprehensive plan policies. The CMU that Mr. Hudson referenced down the road is actually surrounded by R35, a higher density, much higher than R6. The amendment expands the available commercial uses on site to allow a broader and more invasive range of uses, such as a hotel, private marina, major vehicle repair, and even a helipad as of right. The neighborhood has already experienced unwanted impacts from commercial use on a smaller scale because numerous units in the Marisol are already being rented out as short-term rentals. My clients have witnessed increased noise, illegal parking, commercial use of the marina, and numerous safety issues. Tonight, the applicant has the burden to show why the growth and development pattern of the currently adopted comprehensive plan is no longer appropriate, having to show a significant change in circumstances. Here, no such justification exists. The applicant claims it is to mirror the original historic use of the hotel, but as staff points out, there's no certainty from the amendment that the Marisol could be preserved and could actually be demolished. The new buildings, as Mr. Hudson said, are better for flooding than old ones. While the Marisol's architecture is historic, its use as a hotel has been displaced by a stable multifamily use over the site over the last 60 years. This amendment is out of place with the community. Please deny. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Sarah L. And after Sarah is David Sears, Frank Silcox, and Claire Friedman. So please make your way on up here. David Sears, Frank Silcox, and Claire Friedman.
Hi there. Thank you for this moment. I'm Sarah Lesh. I want to speak as a former resident of the Marisol. You go to Davis Island for the charm, and the Marisol oozes character and charm. Like Plant Hall is the cornerstone of UT, the Marisol feels like an important part of Davis Island to me. As a UT student in the 90s, I lived in the Marisol, and even way back then, it had seen better days. To me, it was like a silver that needed to be shined. It just needed a little extra coat of something. But it was still the perfect place to live for me as a student. It was close to UT, and that was where I wanted to be. I remember when we found it, me and my roommate, we wanted to live close to the UT campus, and we saw an ad in the paper that led us to the Marisol. We walked through the back gate, and that was when we were sold because it was so beautiful back there. We had no idea it was even on the water when we first went there. We walked back. It had this beautiful terrace. I remember these bright pink bougainvilleas. They were gorgeous, and it had a place to sit and do homework, and it was really great. It had a waterfront pool was back there. Sailboats were parked back there. And we were moving down from New England and just instantly fell in love with the place. And even more than that, we ended up falling in love with Davis Island. So we knew we were pretty lucky back then. And few college experiences, students got to experience that. There were a lot of college students at the time that lived on Davis Island. But I haven't been able to experience the Marisol since then. So, but since living there, I've had an affinity for the island, which I have shared with my children as they have grown. They regularly frequent the businesses on the islands. They head over for morning coffee. They, want to have dinner over there, head to the end of the island. And this is because of my love for the island. I live in South Tampa. We're longtime residents. And I still go back to the island and enjoy it. I have friends that won't. They don't find the charm of the island. They don't find the end of the island pleasant. They don't like the water, this or that. But my children do, because I've been able to convey that love of the island having been there. So I think restoring a historic beauty like this just ensures that the island continues to feel special. The historic, when you go onto the island, that property is just gorgeous. It really, when you drive on, you see that this is the reason why you want to be on the island. And I hope that if we could open it up, we could perhaps encourage other people like my children and like our family to be able to have a classy dinner, to be able to enjoy the island again. And then that might encourage future generations too as well.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Still looking for David Sears and Frank Silcox. Also,
I'm Claire Friedman. I was on the list.
You can go ahead. You
okay,
came
great.
up, yeah.
I'm Claire Friedman. I've lived on Baltic Circle for over 36 years. I have 4 simple concerns about this proposal. It's all related to geography. First of all, Davis Island has one bridge, one road. It's really simple, folks. We don't have any room for expansion like any of the other properties mentioned over on Henderson and Dale Mabry. We are one bridge, one road. So there's no other routing of traffic. My second concern is the geographical location of the Mirasol property. I love the description of it being an arterial road. Well, it's an arterial road with a bifurcation. So east and west immediately split at that location where the Mirasol is. So there's already a lot of traffic activity there with the road being split. There are multiple pedestrian crossings there also. Any road and bike lane modifications that are going to be made to allow safe exit from the Mirasol will impact traffic flow entering and exiting the island because it's a one road, one bridge flow. Third concern is we currently have traffic congestion on Davis Island. The primary offender, God bless them, is Tampa General Hospital. I used to work there. That's out of our purview. It's a city facility, and they're going to grow, and if you drive by there, you can see the enormous addition they're putting there right on the edge of the water. We've all experienced traffic backup when there's any downtown event because there is a lane that goes off the bridge that goes downtown. Also, with Tampa General, there are 3 times during the day with my work schedule, I'm on and off the island at all hours. So we have the 2 shift changes, and there's an unexplained traffic backup around 9:30 in the morning. I haven't figured out what that is, but everybody's going to Tampa General that time. In addition, we have public amenities on the island which increase our traffic. So we have 4 public parks for dogs and humans. We have boating ramps. We have a beach. And bikers love Davis Island. It's one of the reasons they come over. There's low traffic. They're very safe. They come in groups of 50. So last concern is Baltic Circle and Adalia. I can't speak to Adalia, but on Baltic and Adalia will be incidental exits for any traffic, no matter what plan is put in place for the Mirasol. And the additional risk on Baltic Circle is it's an actual circle. So I already have issues with traffic coming on, and it's a continuous blind spot around the circle. So you have unfamiliar people new to the area. They fly around there, looking to address that with some local traffic things. And am I?
Yep, that's it. Thank you. All right, next up, David Sears. Frank Silcox after him. Oop, turn it on, the red button.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm David Sears, retired military. I retired out of Special Operations Command in 2013 and moved back to Davis Island in 2020, the height of COVID. It was a joy. That said, my primary concerns in this area, and the reason we moved there is because it is a residential area, had a strong sense of community and character. With that, I have major safety concerns with this. I live at 127 Adalia, directly across from the Mirasol, directly across from some of the buildings you saw there. I have to tell my kids right now, they are driving 16 and 18 years old, they have to take a right-hand turn to get onto Davis Island because they cannot safely leave Adalia and take a left because the amount of traffic and the visibility in front of the Mirasol. Amazon trucks are parked in front of it, cars are coming and going, Ubers are coming and going. You cannot see the traffic coming from the south. So my kids have learned they have to take a right-hand turn. My wife often takes a right-hand turn. I'll wait 10, 15 minutes and then take a right-hand turn. Or dart across, like military would do. The commercial use of that area, so the plan is also this compatibility piece. We have, I heard the compatibility doesn't matter, but it does. If it's a hotel, it's not compatible. The usage in and out of that hotel comes right across from my house. It becomes a commercial road. It's already effectively a one-lane road with all the construction and the cars parked along there. So we have to wait to go down Adalia. You have to stop, wait for another car to pass. You've seen many of these one-lane roads all over Tampa. Now add a hotel to that usage. In addition, for the safety, when the Airbnb started up a couple of years ago, I think it was a couple of years ago, I had to tell my daughter to stop walking the dog alone at night. We live immediately across from that. We used to know who was in the neighborhood. We know all the neighbors that are there. Now we don't. And so there will be parties, there will be things happening on the weekends, and I have to tell her, hey, you're waiting for me, or I don't want to walk the dog all the time. So I'm like, okay, you can't go by yourself at night. Now turn that into a hotel with people in and out. I'm sure they're of great character, but you just don't know, and they change the character of the community. Approving this would irreversibly and permanently damage the safety and the character and the sense of community on Davis Island, Adalia, and all around it. I haven't heard from one person who lives near it that's for it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Next up, Frank Silcox.
Something up here. My name's Frank Silcox. I own the property at 124 Adalia, directly west of the Mirasol. That was my house on Danny's slide earlier. I'm right next to it. The Mirasol's request for CMU 35 land use change is being promoted as a way to restore the property to its historic use and preserve Davis Island's history. It sounds appealing, but it's not accurate. The original Mirasol Hotel had no Adalia Avenue ingress or egress, had no parking lots, had no swimming pool, had no boat docks. All of those came decades later after its 1962 apartment conversion. Originally, it had 61 hotel and apartment units in the historic building, which still stands 180 feet from my property. The amendment would allow the original building to more than double in size from 57,000 square feet to over 140,000 square feet. And the applicant has already proposed new building construction just 15 feet from my property, which is 165 feet closer to my property than its historic footprint. This is not an attempt to mirror its original and historic use. The amendment will allow for major expansion, one that is incompatible with the neighborhood. The applicant has referred to the Mirasol as the crown jewel of Davis Islands, but history tells a different story. It opened in May 1926, just as the Florida land boom collapsed. D.P. Davis lost it 6 months later. It went into foreclosure. It was closed down for 3 years, and it sold in 1931 at a courthouse auction for just $15,000, $15,500. That was 2% of its $750,000 cost. Over the next few decades, the so-called crown jewel changed hands repeatedly, struggled financially, and went through another foreclosure in the 1950s. As a hotel, it never resold for more than 20% of what it cost to build. Its real success came in the 1960s when it became apartments. Since then, its value has grown more than 130 times. It has been a stable, successful residential property for almost twice as long as it ever operated as a hotel. The Marisol is a Davis Island gem with genuine historic and architectural value, but that value comes from what it is today, not from an idealized version of its troubled hotel past. And most importantly, commercial zoning does not belong in the middle of a residential neighborhood. The CMU 35 proposal is not preservation, it's commercial expansion. Please recommend denial.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have John Murray, Michelle D., and Bradley Campbell.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Murray, and I reside at 122 Adelia Avenue, just 2 properties west of 84 Davis Boulevard. My wife and I have been proud homeowners and residents of Davis Islands for over 30 years, deeply valuing its unique family residential environment. Professionally, I am the Chief Executive Officer of Port Canaveral for just over 9 years, and I regularly manage complex land use issues personally comparable to what's before you today. I'm here to state my strong opposition to the proposed land use change for 84 Davis Boulevard. The proposal to allow commercial uses is fundamentally inappropriate for our established residential neighborhood and would significantly alter its treasured character. The Marisol has been a residential neighbor for more than 6 decades, and there is no compelling reason to change its land use now in a way that harms its neighbors. I have 3 serious concerns. First, the detrimental impact on parking, traffic, and safety. Our neighborhood already struggles with limited parking. The proposed CMU designation would undoubtedly increase commercial traffic, further congesting our residential streets. Even under current zoning, the property generates vehicles that often park illegally due to limited parking options. More critically, this increased traffic will create safety hazards for pedestrians, children, and users of alternative transportation. Davis Boulevard lacks dedicated bicycle or golf cart lanes, forcing riders into vehicular traffic, and the complex intersection of East and West Davis Boulevards directly in front of the property will only become more dangerous. Second, the significant risks associated with the building's viability and the precedent for incompatible future development. The developer's own website, SaveTheMarisol.com, acknowledges the 99-year-old Marisol building sustained significant flood and wind damage during recent hurricanes. While restoration is hoped for, its success is not guaranteed. If the building is deemed unsalvageable, and the planning committee staff has already confirmed it has no historic preservation protections, the CMU 35 designation would open the door for entirely new commercial developments, completely out of character with existing single and multifamily homes. Third, the erosion of our residential neighborhood character and the dangerous precedent this sets. Approving this land change would signal a willingness to allow commercial encroachment into our residential community. With many Davis Island's multi-residential properties damaged by recent storms, this approval could trigger a cascade of similar requests, fundamentally degrading the quality of life for all residents. In conclusion, the proposed future land use change from R50 to CMU 35 is unsuitable, unnecessary, and unwanted in this residential area of Davis Islands. It threatens our safety, and I recommend that you reject this proposed land change. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, Michelle D.
Does this automatically? Oh, there we go. Hello, my name is Michelle DeJory, and I've lived on Davis Islands for 33 years. For the past year, I've lived on Adelia Avenue, adjacent to the Marisol, right here. I've always appreciated its beauty and history, and I fully support preserving it as a residential property. The current owners are selling the glamour of a hotel and waterfront restaurant, but they've offered no realistic plan for parking, traffic, or the impact on nearby streets, let alone the entire northern half of the island. All Davis Island residents will feel this impact. Having lived both inland and now on a canal, I understand why a waterfront hotel and restaurant might sound appealing at first. But changing this property from residential to commercial use is not consistent or compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. The owners benefit, neighbors bear the cost. Traffic and parking will be far worse than they admit. Their amendment says guests won't be allowed to park on surrounding streets, but they will. How will that be enforced? They'll be able to park all along Adelia, all along Baltic, etc. It's if they tried to make it resident-only parking, we lose street parking privileges for our own family and friends trying to visit our houses. If they were to institute time limits, like the 3-hour limit that has been put on Columbia Avenue, that still allows guests of the restaurant and hotel events to park for hours on these side streets, while our own house guests end up having restrictions. They proudly say Davis Islands will become a destination. I don't doubt it. But is that good for a quiet, safe residential community? A waterfront hotel and restaurant will quickly become a social media hotspot, like the Edition Hotel on Water Street. It'll draw photo shoots, influencers, and crowds into what is now a private neighborhood. Many of those photos will include our backyards. Their latest update says the additional hotel wing will be here. Noise will increase, potentially 7 days a week. Hotel guests often behave differently than residents. More alcohol, louder music, and late-night activity. Sound will carry easily across the water from patios and multi-story balconies facing our homes. This is not preservation, it is commercialization. I respect and urge that you recommend denial. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Up next, we have Bradley Campbell. After Bradley will be Danielle Campbell, Anna Murray, and Andrew Davies.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Bradley Campbell, and I'm a resident that lives at 112 Baltic Circle on the canal behind the Mirasol. I'm here to voice my strong opposition to the proposed land use change of my neighbor's property from residential to commercial use. Our neighborhood has always been a quiet, safe, and family-oriented community. It's a place where children ride their bikes, families walk their dogs, residents scoot around the neighborhood on their golf carts, and neighbors paddleboard and kayak on the canal. Changing the land use designation of the Mirasol from residential to commercial use would fundamentally alter the character of this area in ways that cannot be undone. First, commercial use brings increased vehicle traffic. That means more cars, more Uber drivers, more trucks, more delivery vehicles moving throughout our quiet streets. This poses a direct safety risk to children who play outside, people who walk or bike, and all residents who value the peaceful environment we've built together. There's already an immense amount of traffic where the Mirasol building currently sits on Davis Boulevard. I have personally seen numerous accidents in the lanes of traffic where West Davis and East Davis Boulevards converge next to the Mirasol building. We do not need an increased amount of commercial vehicle traffic where I live on the Baltic Circle, as there is already a blind turn in the road out front of my house. As you can imagine, people that reside in the neighborhood drive differently on their own neighborhood streets, using caution and respecting fellow neighbors as they pass by. When you start mixing in commercial vehicles and their drivers who are not used to the neighborhood's roadways, it creates a more dangerous living situation. My family and I built our dream home at 112 Baltic Circle because of its location, specifically because of the wonderful residential feel this location has, because it's off the beaten path from the other busy streets throughout the Davis Islands, because our home is located on the canal and we can sit on our back porch in the evening and enjoy a quiet sunset. Allowing commercial operations that have access to the canal would change its nature from a residential recreational waterway into a commercial passage. Our canal is not designed to accommodate frequent or heavy boat traffic. Increasing usage for business purposes would create congestion, safety concerns, and diminish the enjoyment of those who use it for quiet activities like kayaking, paddleboarding, and fishing. Lastly, we must consider the impact on noise and the atmosphere. Right now, our neighborhood is serene and charming. A shift toward commercial activity brings with it more noise, longer hours of activity, and disruption to the peace we all value. Once that character is lost, we can't get it back. Understand the need for business development in our city, as I am a real estate developer myself, but it should be done thoughtfully in an appropriate area zoned for that purpose. Our neighborhood is not that place. Our neighborhood is zoned residential. I respectfully urge you to preserve the integrity, safety, and tranquility of our community by denying this zoning change from commercial from residential use to commercial use. Let's keep our neighborhood a place for families, not a place for commercial traffic and commercial noise. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Danielle Campbell, and after her, Anna Murray.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Campbell, and I live at 112 Baltic Circle, and my family, we have lived on Davis Island for 11 years, and I'm here to voice strong opposition to the proposed land use change that would allow a commercial hotel to be built in our residential neighborhood. Our community was designed and zoned as a residential for a reason, because it's a place where families live, children play, and neighbors feel safe. Turning over this space to commercial interests like a hotel is not just a bad idea, it's a fundamental threat to the integrity and safety of our neighborhood. First and foremost, like others before me have said, safety is a major concern. With the hotel comes increased traffic, delivery trucks, rideshare vehicles, valet drivers rushing to pick up or drop off guests. Our streets are narrow and already congested, and adding commercial activity to that mix is dangerous. Children and families walking, neighbors crossing the street, families riding golf carts, families riding bikes should not have to compete with large trucks or distracted out-of-town drivers unfamiliar with our area. Second, this is about encroachment. Allowing a hotel here would set a dangerous precedent. If this hotel is approved, what's next? A parking structure, convenience store? We open the floodgates to more rezoning requests, and little by little we lose what makes our community unique. Also, let's not forget the impact on the quality of life. A hotel brings noise at all hours, unfamiliar faces coming and going, and lights and activity that truly never stop. That's not what our neighborhood is supposed to feel like, and certainly not what I want in my backyard. We aren't against development, but it must be smart, balanced, and appropriate to the space. And a hotel in a residential zone is none of those things. This proposal undermines the safety, character, and stability of our neighborhood, and I urge you to protect what we have. Keep our streets safe, keep our community residential, and say no to the land use change and no to this hotel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Anna Murray.
My name is Anna Murray. My husband and I are residents at 122 Adelia Avenue, 2 doors down from the Marisol. We respectfully request that you follow county and city planning staff recommendations and recommend denial of this land use amendment, which is incompatible with our neighborhood and could lead to loss of affordable housing options. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan defines compatibility as the characteristics of different uses or activities or design which allows them to be located near or adjacent to each other in harmony. The proposed change will not enhance the quality of life in our neighborhood. In particular, the change from residential to commercial use will lead to additional problems. In very recent years, the Marisol has evolved from a quiet residential building to a building now with short-term Airbnb rentals, and at one time even had a commercial party boat rental off the dock. With this shift from commercial short-term rental use, the Marisol, we have seen an increase in chaotic parking, clogging the street, afternoon parties with escalating noise, increased boat traffic, all creating safety issues. The small dose of short-term rentals is already incompatible. We can only imagine the exponential impact of a full-scale commercial use and an almost certain increase of noise and visual pollution. Further, there's a public policy reason to ensure affordable housing options are maintained. We chose our home on Davis Island 3 decades ago. We raised our children valuing the family life on Davis Island. With more than 50 apartment rental units, the Marisol provides crucial housing for individuals who might otherwise be priced out of our community. From young TGH professionals to seniors in transition, we've had the pleasure of meeting these people over the years, and they all seek to live in a safe, family-friendly neighborhood. The recent loss of more affordable housing, particularly on Davis Island due to the hurricanes, and smaller homes now being replaced with larger homes, underscores the importance of preserving housing for individuals that might otherwise be priced out of our community. Please follow staff recommendations and recommend a denial of this.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Andrew Davies. And after Andrew Davies, we have Debbie Z.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Davies, and my wife, Michelle, and I reside at 120 Adelia Avenue, just 4 properties west of 84 Davis Boulevard. We have been proud homeowners and residents of Davis Island for just over 5 years, deeply valuing its unique family residential environment. Professionally, as the CEO of Cineverse for 5 years, and with 2 decades of prior experience as the CFO of some of the world's largest telcos, including Verizon Wireless and Sprint, I regularly manage material, complex, long-term investment decisions comparable to what's before us today. I'm here to state our strong opposition to the proposed land use change for 84 Davis Boulevard. The proposal to allow commercial uses is fundamentally inappropriate for the established residential neighbourhood and would significantly alter its treasured character. Now, I won't repeat the same incredibly valuable arguments that my friends and neighbours already have made. What I would say is that we consciously chose to live on Davis Islands because of its unique village-like character. In doing so, we made the same fundamental assumption that anyone who is responsible for long-term real estate decisions makes, whether that's as an individual or as a corporate body. That assumption being that planning regulations and the associated framework are sacrosanct, and that those with governance responsibilities ensure that they are diligently and rigorously upheld and aren't subject to change based on individual whims or spurious rationale. Now, I would respectfully suggest that the concept that this thing is warranted because there's some shortage of accommodation for TGH, or that East Davis Boulevard is in some way equivalent to Dale Mabry, Beta Bay, etc., is completely spurious. The Mirasol has been a residential neighbour for more than 6 decades. There is no compelling reason to change its land use now in a way that harms its neighbours, and to even contemplate doing so really would open up Pandora's box in potentially unimaginable ways. In conclusion, the proposed future land use change is unsuitable, unnecessary and unwanted in this residential area of Davis Islands. It threatens the safety, the neighbourhood's character and sets a dangerous precedent, and we respectfully urge you to reject the proposed land use change, and we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Debbie Z, and after Debbie is T. McDuffie and J. McDuffie. I think it's Tracy McDuffie and John McDuffie after that, but first up, Debbie Z.
Thank you. Debbie Zommerman, 192 Corsica Street, and a resident of Davis Island since 2002. While I'm here tonight as a resident, I have served on the Davis Island Civic Association for over a decade, with much of my efforts focused on zoning matters. I request that you follow the recommendation of your expert staff and deny TA/CPA 2418. It is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and incompatible with the surrounding residential neighborhood. Both County Planning Commission staff and City of Tampa staff recognize the numerous inconsistencies with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Notably, the property is located in the Davis Island Urban Village, a unique location bordering an inlet surrounded by single-family detached homes and multifamily dwellings. LU Policy 5.1.4 provides development projects in urban villages must be oriented, integrated, and in scale with the surrounding community. LU Objective 5.1 requires support the urban village designations that produce a distinctive high-quality built environment whose forms and characters respect Tampa's unique historic, environmental, and architectural context and create memorable places that enrich community life. At page 187 of the comprehensive plan, it recognizes Davis Island's visions, stating that Davis Island has a small town character with a small town community identity that has been protected and enhanced over time. The intrusion of general commercial uses, remember that, into this residential neighborhood is an alarming request, undermines the DI vision, is incompatible in massing, size, and scale, and most importantly, character and quality of life. Right now, R50 allows neighborhood commercial uses as long as it complies with locational criteria. CMU 35 takes it a step further to allow commercial general uses, which is a much broader range, including a marina and a hotel, which will disturb the area as there is little to no separation between existing residential. CMU 35 designation makes no sense for this residential urban village site. If mixed use is the goal, there are less intensive flu categories such as neighborhood mixed use 16, 24, and 35. Here, the change to CMU more than doubles the maximum intensity on the site, which could allow for residential density exceeding the current 50 dwelling units. Moreover, There is not a sensitive transition between the high and low intention CLU policy 9.6.4, any policy 1.1.2. The abrupt change leads to compatibility issues with massing and scales. Please rely on the guidance of your professional staff and please deny this based on the numerous inconsistencies. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have, wrong list. Tracy McDuffie. I think it's Tracy. Yeah, McDuffie.
Hi, my name is Tracy McDuffie. I reside at 486 Lucerne Avenue, which is quite a distance away from Adelia. I can say that my concern here is the safety. Davis Island does not have the infrastructure. My street floods on a regular basis. The noise is going to travel down the canal. My husband and I currently are staying on Howard Avenue next to a hotel with a rooftop bar while we rebuild our home on Lucerne Avenue. And that noise is going to come down the canal. We previously had some neighbors that like to have a band on a regular basis that was approximately 15 houses away. And I think it was Assisted Twister would come down the canal very loudly, even though it was pretty far away. And that kind of noise is going to go down and affect all of those neighbors. And we really can't handle the infrastructure and the water. And I too have to make a right turn when I'm on Adelia. So just please deny this and support our community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up is John McDuffie, and then looks like Joe H., possibly. I don't know if he's...
Hi, my name's John McDuffie. My wife Tracy was just the speaker previously, so you know where I live, 486 Lucerne Avenue, not exactly next to this particular project, but I'm speaking on behalf of my friends and neighbors that live within a stone's throw of this particular project. And all I had to say was that I believe this board should weigh very heavily, in fact, the heaviest on the people that made their purchasing decisions for their homes within the distance of this project. Everybody bought their homes, since it's been this way for 60 plus years, with the expectation that there was going to be the same use or a similar use on that particular parcel. So to now change it into something that's much more dense or commercial is not fair to the people that made those purchasing decisions so many years ago. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, Joe H. Maybe I'm not saying it right. Harder or Harfer? Nope. Okay. Blue pen? Yeah. Sorry.
Good idea. Please go up or down. Up. Okay. Evening. Joe Hafner, for the record. I'm an architect. I've lived on Davis Island since 1975. I've been through the 60s twice. My partner in my architectural firm was Harry McCune prior to his death. He's the one that renovated it back in the 60s. And I can guarantee you that he did a great job and it wasn't in bad repair then. All buildings that old need a lot of maintenance and a lot of money, but it can be done if you got owners that care about it. A couple of things on the screen here is that the City Council and the Hillsborough County Commission have both taken the stance that we need to slow down coastal development in coastal high hazard areas. And that's what Davis Island is. It's one of the prime evacuation things when the hurricane comes. Everybody with any sense gets off it, takes their cars with them, if they have real brains. And it's in a high flood risk area. One thing you probably don't know is that FEMA and the FEMA regulations allow commercial buildings to flood-proof their buildings, and commercial residents are not allowed to do that. So by zoning this or changing it to a commercial use, they can flood-proof everything on this property, and that doesn't stop the water from going down the street and flood all the neighborhoods.
You all saw during the last storm last fall, the highlights on TV about Tampa General and their great flood barriers. Well, yeah, they worked, but they sent all the water down Columbia Street and flooded the neighbors. So there is a displacement of water that nobody's paying any attention to when we have these severe storms. If you can flood-proof your water, it's going someplace else. You can count on it. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is on the commercial zoning. There's commercial uses that you would not like at the end of your street or in your neighborhood. Some of these things are cemetery, large group care home, daycare nursing facility, fraternity or sorority, funeral parlor, hospital and associated uses, hotel of 100 rooms or more, restaurant, retail shops, sidewalk cafe, auto rental, bank drive-in, cigar factory, hotel motel, religious assembly, rooming house, alcohol beverage sale, gasoline convenience store, medical marijuana dispensing facility, business and medical offices, and a commercial marina, which just gives a right to that zoning change to have commercial uses on that dock. You can have jet skis, you can have water skis, you can have fishing boats, anything else that's going to go up and down that canal that's going to disturb the current life of all the people that have homes that back up to it. Please vote no against this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Linda Hanna, and after Linda is Malcolm Klein and Andrew Spicola. So I'm looking for Linda Hanna, Malcolm Klein, and Andrew Spicola.
Good evening. My name is Linda Hanna. I live at 83 Adelia, like the fellow who was just before me. About a quarter of a mile down the street from the Marisol. I've lived on Davis Island for 46 out of the last 52 years, 43 of them on Adelia Avenue. Adelia Avenue hosts a multitude of walkers, runners, bikers, dog walkers, and moms and dads walking their little children. Our children grew up on Adelia, playing Little League at the park and getting ice cream and pizza, preferably in their book in that order, at the village after the games. But the increase in traffic, decrease in safety, and reduction of peace in the neighborhood from intense intensity and commercial development, whatever it turns out to be, because none of us knows what that's going to be in the short term, let alone the long term, will degrade the residential quality of our neighborhood. The proposed land use amendment is an incompatible and unnecessary intrusion of commercial uses into a very low density residential area, contrary to the comprehensive plan's emphasis on protecting those areas from incompatible development. But for me, the most significant inconsistency is the impact of the increase of intensity on our fragile and vulnerable coastal high hazard area. Doubling the square footage approved for this property would divert additional water onto Adelia, Baltic, and Davis Boulevard, which is also a terrible flooding area. Doubling that square footage and increasing that flooding is a result that's beyond troubling. It's horrifying, bringing back awful memories from Helene a year ago. After 40 years in our house with zero flooding, we came home after Helene, our house flooded by storm surge, 28 inches of foul water in our family room, destroying everything in it, 32 inches in our laundry room and garage, and all tossed like a salad. It's unbelievable, the power of the water. I had never before fully understood the meaning of the word catastrophe. I hope that you never return to your home to realize that it's gone, never to be the same, and never to be the home you thought it was before the storm. The thought that this Planning Commission would consider it good and proper to approve the increases allowed by this plan amendment are deeply disturbing. Please don't approve anything that could increase flooding in future storms and put more people in peril during evacuations. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Malcolm Klein. and then Andrew Spicola after him.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Malcolm Klein. I reside at 94 Baltic Circle, right next door to the Mirasol, where I've been living peacefully for the past 35 years. I'm vehemently opposed to Mirasol's application to change the land use district to CMU 35. While others can speak to the broad implications of commercial activity in our family-friendly neighborhood, I would like to focus on the direct effects of commercializing their marina, because their 100-foot marina is practically in my backyard. I can see all of the marina, I can see all of the back of the Mirasol, I can see their pool and the patio, and if I can see them, they can see me. The canal we share is 150 feet wide, maybe 1,300 feet long. It was designed for limited, low-impact residential boating. Converting this marina to commercial use would inject high-intensity operations, jet ski rentals, and party boats which have operated from there before. Poolside events, restaurant traffic into a very quiet waterway. Firstly, the noise would be unbearable. Studies show that the expected 10 to 15 decibel increase in noise over water in the canals can reduce property values by 3 to 5%. Engine noises at all hours, amplified music into the night, constant guest turnover will destroy the tranquility that defines our homes. Privacy will vanish. Boats will pass within feet of our backyards, often with loud, intoxicated passengers. This is not just inconvenient, it fundamentally changes how we use and enjoy our property. Thirdly, safety risk will escalate. The canal cannot handle high-frequency boat and jet ski traffic, especially from inexperienced and sometimes intoxicated renters. Finally, the economic harm to surrounding homeowners will be substantial. Devaluation of nearby homes by 5 to 10%, as seen in similar cases like Marina Bay in Quincy, Massachusetts. Right, so even if the value of the houses go down, there's going to be reduced buyer interest. Who will want to come and live right next door to commercial noise, nightlife, and traffic? Approving this change would create a selfishly one-sided economic benefit for a single commercial property owner, while imposing lasting financial and personal cost on the entire surrounding residential community. I urge you to reject this land use change and protect the long-term stability, safety, and value of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Andrew Spicola, and after him, Will Hall and Steve Stolley.
Good evening.
Hey.
Andrew Spicola. I was born 56 years ago in Tampa General Hospital on Davis Island, and I've lived there my entire life. I live at 164 Baltic Circle with my wife and daughter. My two sons live at 608 Danube on Davis Island, and my two parents, who are both over 85 years old, live at 176 Baltic Circle. And my mother was born and raised in Tampa General Hospital and has lived there her entire life as well. On behalf of all of those folks, I'd like to reiterate what all of my other neighbors have already said, that we all oppose this. This is not something that's good for our island or good for the residents. I haven't heard one single person who lives on Davis Island now come and speak in favor of this project. But rather than touch on what's already been so eloquently spoken of by my neighbors, I'd like to address a couple of the things that Mr. Hudson suggested would be reasons for this proposal. First, he said that there is a precedent already set that there's other CMU 35 on Davis Island, and that may be true, but it doesn't border R6 property. It's over in the kind of what we call the apartment area, where there is other high-density residential areas. And placing something like this next to residential single-family homes would be devastating for the value of those homes. I don't live directly next to it like some of my colleagues have spoken tonight, but not far down the street, and we already have an issue with traffic, has been discussed multiple times tonight, and adding this to our already bad circumstance for traffic would just be devastating. Secondly, Mr. Hudson addressed the issue of, well, we've got this thriving hospital, and there's no hotel on Davis Island where they can stay. And my response to that is, first of all, there's dozens of hotels within a mile right in downtown Tampa. But secondly, if you were to put a hotel there, no one in their right mind would try to walk from the Mirasol to Tampa General Hospital, because already the traffic is so hazardous that you can't cross the street. And you've heard my neighbors talk about how you can't even turn onto the street. You have to go south and make a U-turn to come back up. So adding this significant increase in traffic would just exacerbate the circumstances it is, and there's no good reason for it. Third, he mentioned the word arterial roadway. And sure, Davis Boulevard is an arterial roadway, but there's 2 other roads that border that property that are not. There are 6 roadways where people live with their kids and their pets and their families, and they don't want it. And finally, I was horrified to hear that it's going to be 13,000 times more traffic based on the engineer survey. We can't afford that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have Will Hall.
Hello. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but as a resident and someone who lives on Aegean Ave right around the corner, I felt compelled to speak up. So the traffic, it is a huge issue. One thing you may not be aware
Hang on.
of.
Identify yourself.
My name is Will Hall. I live on Aegean Ave, right around the corner from where the building's going up. So I just want to put this into like real terms. I loved how the family that was displaced from Lucerne, who's living near in Hyde Park near the hotel there, put it. We live on Aegean, which has a preschool. When the preschool has just a holiday party, small preschool, very intimate, it floods all of our streets with parking for those few hours that whole morning. Everybody gets their driveways blocked. It's unintentional, but it's a repercussion of what happens. Tampa General, I encourage you all to come visit Aegean Ave, Adelia Ave, and all these streets that touch Tampa General. Those streets from Monday through Friday are just packed with employees, with patients, with visitors to the hospital. And there's no way to really prevent them from doing that. I've called a million times the parking and traffic department. You know, they're not on demand, so they have jobs, they have other priorities. Tampa General has reasons why they can't get there and help out. So when I think about a new huge facility, hotel being built right in our backyard where we already have these traffic problems touching us, I know every other block, like Baltic and that other side of Adelia and everything across the street, they're going to be blocked just like we are. So all of a sudden you're taking a small part of the beginning of Davis Island that's already overwhelmed with traffic, and now you're extending it down like a whole other 5-10 blocks, this 13,000 number that was thrown on it. That is fact. That is what's going to happen. I see it every day. And if you want proof, just come visit 54 Aegean Ave, and you're always welcome to stop by. I do not support this proposed change. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, Steve Staley, Steve S., and after him is Cheryl R.
Good evening. My name's Steve Stanley. I live at 20 Adelia Avenue, Unit C. I've lived on Davis Island not as long as some of these people, but for 37 years. And I've lived at 20 Adelia for 17 years. I'm also past president of Davis Island Civic Association, if that matters. But I've heard some things that are very interesting. The first thing I heard was how Davis Boulevard is an arterial street. And I don't disagree, but it's not West Shore Boulevard. When I heard it compared to West Shore Boulevard and the developments on West Shore Boulevard, where there are multifamily offices and residents and restaurants, this is not this area of Davis Island. There is a little area of Davis Island that is the commercial district. It's further down the street on East Davis. And, you know, there's some development there, but there's nothing like they're talking about here. Now, there is the old Bank of America building. If they want to do a big, major high-rise development, they could buy that property and do it there. But coming back to the pictures they put up here with that little thumb that sticks out where the Mirasol is, that's already a very high, intense use what's on it. And right next to it are the lower density residentials. So their thumbs already sticking out too much as it is. And for them to get a land use amendment that would allow them to do mixed use commercial development, the first thing I think about, those parking lots he talked about, they're on the water. So can you imagine? They'd want to get rid of those parking lots and build right next to these people that are on each side of Baltic and Adelia, and build who knows how much development there. Even if they didn't tear down the Marisol, they'd want to be able to develop that. Giving them that land use amendment would allow them to do it. Or, as some of the other people have said, if the Marisol is too far gone, they could just tear the thing down and build an enormous mixed-use project. And then I think you would have the 13,000 cars a day trips versus the 263. So there's a lot going on in what they're asking for. And I know you are a bunch of smart people sitting here, and you should see the light that your county people have told you and your city people have told you. There's too many inconsistencies with allowing this type of a heavy, dense land use change in that area. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right. Last but not least, Cheryl R.
Good evening. Cheryl Renzulli. I used to live at the Marisol 2 owners ago, and even when they bought it. I live at 45 Davis Boulevard now. It's another historical building on the island. It did not, during the flood, nobody was displaced at the Palace of Florence. It was built around the same time by Mr. Davis. I've been listening to everything that's been said, and they said that the property is R50, which is designated as high-density ground. I kind of wonder how long ago they checked this for the ground area, saying that it's high density. The Marisol has a basement. It also has an in-ground pool on a seawall. It always floods. The basement always floods in a lot of rain. So I wonder how, the first thing that comes to my mind when we had the flood just recently, I thought of a sinkhole, that it's sitting on a giant sinkhole. I mean, there's no basements in Florida. You just don't build them. The other thing is that they Airbnb that building because all of the residents that live there have left. They did not keep the residents there. When the new owners came in, they haven't really done the things that needed to be up to par. If you drive by and you see the property outside, even the ground, the grass is dead. It's a golf cart community. You're going to add a lot of traffic in the area. The other thing that, sorry, I wasn't planning on speaking, but I loved living at the Marisol. I lived there for a number of years. Other residents that were here this evening, we all lived there. It was the best place to live ever. I mean, I just have the best memories of the place. I don't want to see them ruin it. It was such a beautiful place. Just fix it. And it can be fixed. When you think about the place that I live down the road, the Palace of Florence, it was built in the same era. And they're talking about how newer buildings, bringing them up to code and everything. The Palace of Florence, nobody was displaced during the hurricane that we just had when the whole island flooded up to waist. That building was built in the 1920s. So there's no reason that the Marisol can't be brought back to life as well. It was built at the same time and by the same builders. I just hate seeing that they don't love the building like the last few people did. I just hate that they want to destroy that area. It's a beautiful community to live. I guess that's my key to say good night. Thank you. I appreciate you hearing me, and please think really hard about what you're going to do. Thank you.
All right. That was it from public comment, so allow the applicant a 3-minute period for response.
Good evening. Tyler Hudson for the record. First, we got really 3 points that I want to touch on. And the first is what the chairman noted at the beginning of this hearing, which I noted too, which is we need to have a reminder of a sense of where we are in the process. There is an entire elaborate zoning process that follows this. All the things that nearly everything that was brought up from the folks who oppose this, who I think their opposition is obviously heartfelt, traffic, alcohol, noise, hours of operation, safety, stormwater, whether there's stuff on the rooftop or not. There's not. The commercial marina, there's a dock that's been there for a long time and we propose to keep that. There's no commercial marina. Uses, and that's a good segue into this notion that if you vote to find this consistent, that you are automatically, and we walk out of this room having introduced the entire infinite universe of commercial uses, that is not true. The decision you make will be either upheld or not by City Council, and they'll figure out a way to implement that with things like zoning that invite traffic studies. All of those things are legitimate concerns. They're entirely premature. It's writing a scathing review of the movie when you walk out of the preview. We are simply not there yet to discuss all of these factors that folks are genuinely concerned about. This is not the place for that in a future land use hearing. Facts matter. A lot of what we heard about, again, was prediction and speculation and a lot of belief that the worst case scenario is what's automatically going to come true. And that's an opinion that every Davis Island resident, every person who lives here gets to have. But there are some facts that I would hope, and I would ask that you guide your deliberation on this. This parcel of land is not in the middle of a neighborhood. This parcel of land fronts a 4-lane road, East Davis Boulevard, and is at the terminus of where it functions as an arterial road. It's not in the middle of a neighborhood. It is a half mile from the largest employment center, certainly on the island, if we're talking about 4,900%. It is an enormous employment center. It's a regional attractor. That should bear in consideration for you all about whether something like CMU 35 is appropriate on an arterial roadway that's a half mile from Tampa General Hospital. And the last point I raised this at the beginning is the zoning. Zoning is a check on this. This changes what we are allowed to ask for. That's all it is. It changes what we can ask for, how we use new use rights, how we use density rights. That is a decision for City Council to determine. But for now, we think this is eminently appropriate and ask for your recommendation of consistency. Thanks.
All right. Now, over to the commissioners for Wow, already? For questions, comments, Commissioner Sieben.
I understand everybody's concerns. I really do. I met a lovely lady in the bathroom who told me how long she lived on Davis Island. I was born and raised in South Tampa. My mom, my daughter, and I were all born at St. Joe's. My first job was at Tate's on the island, so I really understand everybody's concerns for sure. I do want everybody just to note that we are a recommending body, so what we say here might not matter when it comes to City Council. They could consider it or not. But the only thoughts I had were, if this place is an Airbnb today and it's not being maintained well, full-time property management of a hotel may be an upgrade as far as landscaping is concerned and as far as oversight is concerned. Just so you guys know, it might end up being a positive. As much as, you may hate to think that it could go through, it still could. And so just try to keep some of that in mind. And it kind of reminds me of the Pally House, I think I'm pronouncing it right, hotel in Hyde Park on Swan. That's also, a mixed-use neighborhood, and I think that's ended up being a benefit to the community over there. I think a lot of people like going to the lounge area at that hotel from what I've heard from neighbors who live around there. So I'm not saying, I know everyone's looking at me with a lot of fear in their eyes. So I'm just trying to give you some of the sunshine that you may see if this actually does end up going through.
All right. Any other comments, questions, discussion items? I will say that if somebody's going to make a motion in opposition to staff's inconsistency finding, that we will need some objectives, goals, and policies to go with that. So please be prepared with those things. But beyond that, is there any more discourse or comments from the commissioners? I'm not seeing a lot of excitement, so I will go ahead and close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Is there anyone willing? Oh, Cardenas? See you moving, maybe?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
All right.
You know, a few months ago, we had another one come through that was for Hyde Park. I think this is a bigger turnout than the one that we had at Hyde Park. And I voted for that one because it was right off of Bayshore. It could make sense for the community because it expanded out. This is a little different. You know, Davis Island, I think, has its own. There's something special about Davis Island because you go there and you're like in the city, but you're not. You're a step away. So I'm a little torn with this one. But you know what? Being in real estate and being in that business, it really makes me think about how this really could affect values in that area for residences. You know, that's a big one, you know, especially considering, you know, many of you have lived in your homes for a long time, and we do live in a community that, oddly enough, you're getting gentrification at a whole other high level that you just usually don't find. Usually you're finding gentrification at homes that are, you know, a couple $100,000, not homes that are, you know, $2 million and you're getting gentrified by something that's $6 million. Those are bigger numbers, and if you've been there 30, 40 years, you may not be at that same income bracket, but you're still living there because you've been there so long. So for me, this one definitely makes a difference. So I'm going to make a motion for inconsistency. What is the number?
TACPA 24.
For TACPA 2418.
All right, so that's a motion of inconsistency finding by Commissioner Cardenas. Who whispered that? Oh, Commissioner Kugler. Yeah, turn on your mic and speak into it for the clerk's benefit to get it recorded.
I second that motion.
All right, thank you, sir. That's a second to that motion of inconsistency by. What's
Can I
going
just
on
make
over
one comment?
Yeah.
So I think this is a kind of a tough one. I thought the applicant made really good arguments. Of course, if I lived there, I'd probably feel differently. I mean, I'd probably feel like how all of you feel too. What it comes down to for me is really looking at what the professional staff in the city of Tampa have weighed in on, and I think since they were both aligned, I'm going to support the motion and vote inconsistent as well.
All right, all good comments. Motion to the floor. Commissioner Cardenas has it inconsistent. Second to that motion by Commissioner Kugler. Now, any more comments, discussions from the commissioners before we take our vote? I'm going to go ahead and ask for a roll call vote on this one. I'm not sure where they're going to fall.
Bowden?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Kugler?
Yes.
Linkus?
Yes.
Sieben? Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. All right, that's the end of that one. So our next agenda item, should I give him a moment to clear the room or?
Thank you all. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.
We're still in a meeting here, so let's, everybody who's getting out, get out, and everybody who's staying in, stay in. Quickly and quietly, please. Thank you. All right. Our next agenda item is 2B, TACPA 2505, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 1300 Harbor and Channelside Street, and the presenter is Danny Collins.
Good evening, Danny Collins again with your Planning Commission staff. Today I'll be presenting TACPA 2505. This is for the property located at 1300 East Harbor and Channelside Street. This request is a privately initiated request, though it is a property that is owned by Port Tampa Bay. It is small scale in size and approximately 5.42 acres. Currently, the site does not have a future land use designation, and the request is to change the future land use of the site to public semi-public. Before I get started, I did want to kind of clarify that this is a future land use amendment. This is not an application to fill the site. This is simply just to put a future land use category on that site. The subject site is located in the Central Tampa Planning District. It's within the Channel District Urban Village. It is within the Channel District CRA, the Port Activity Center, and also in the Coastal High Hazard Area. It is also within the CBD periphery. The subject site is located east of East Twig Street and the Channelside Drive intersection. It includes surface waters that are within the Ybor Channel. It is outlined in this yellow color here. It is lies directly north of port-owned property just south of McKay Street. This is one of the cruise terminals for the port. To the west of the site, west of Channelside Drive is a mix of high-density, mixed-use development, including residential, office, and commercial uses. Across the Ybor Channel, it is important to note that there's been a series of plan amendments converting industrial lands to urban mixed-use 60. There's been a series of amendments that date back as early 2000s. This is an image looking east towards the subject site. This is looking at some of the industrial uses located north of the subject site. This is looking northwest from the subject site toward the Leroy Selman Expressway. This is looking west from the subject site across Channelside Drive, and this is Bell Channelside for reference. So as mentioned earlier, the subject site currently does not have a future land use designation. It again contains surface waters in the Ybor Channel. This is a portion of a parent parcel which has heavy industrial designation as well as an RMU 100 designation. We do have some heavy industrial to the north and northwest of the site, but a majority of the surrounding area is designated as RMU 100. Which is the second highest mixed-use flu category in the city, second to the CBD. And again, here to the east of the subject site, across the channel, we have the property that was amended years ago to the urban mixed-use 60. Here is the proposed future land use designation. So this request would recognize the subject site under the public semi-public designation. So currently the subject site, again, has no development potential, or doesn't have a development potential since the site doesn't have a future land use designation. Under the public semi-public designation, maximum development potential will be guided by how well the proposed project aligns with the character and compatibility of the surrounding area during the site plan review process. The public semi-public category introduces the potential for public uses and public supporting facilities on the site. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it consistent with several policies of the comprehensive plan. Although the site consists of surface waters, the comprehensive plan allows the future land use designations to be applied to water bodies under certain circumstances, with one being when a project meets the overriding public interest definition, and that's ultimately determined by City Council. That definition is outlined on page 9 and 10 of your staff reports. Our Planning Commission staff reviewed the criteria in the definition and recommends that the City Council finds the proposed amendment consistent with the definition based on the potential economic benefits and the potential positive impacts on public health and safety associated with the public, semi-public designation. The request was also found consistent with policies that support Port Tampa Bay, economic development, and policies that support that seek for development and amendments to support the Port Master Plan. The public semi-public designation will enable the development of public serving facilities and port infrastructure contributing to the region's growth. And finally, the public semi-public designation supports policies that aim to enhance public amenities and provide public infrastructure throughout the city and in proximity to downtown. And based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Was there an applicant presentation or? Turn on the mic. Red button.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Minier, a certified planner, and I'm assisting the Tampa Port Authority with this plan amendment. With me, I have several people who work for the port, and they provide legal, environmental, real estate development, and engineering services. Hopefully, we can answer any questions you might have tonight. We appreciate the guidance your staff and the City of Tampa staff have provided in working with us on this project. The property is very unique. It's designated water, in essence designated nothing today. And in order for us to use it for what we need to use it for, we need to change the water area to public, semi-public. And it was suggested by staff as that's the most appropriate request. This would allow the port to modify the site and allow us to enhance port-related uses on it, including new passenger cruise ship uses. The Tampa Port Authority owns and/or operates the various freight and passenger facilities in the Tampa Bay area, including all the passenger cruise ship terminals located in the Channelside area just south of this site. The site, which is also owned by the Port Authority, is an unused man-made wharf and channel, which some people used to call the Banana Docks. Its current name we'd like to use is Metroport, but Banana Docks, Metroport is the same place. It has served small freighters in the long past, but now obsolete and no longer used for freight traffic. However, this area is adjacent to Tampa's existing passenger cruise terminals, and the site would be a logical extension for a new passenger cruise terminal and uses. This new terminal could provide significant benefits to Tampa and Hillsborough County, as determined in a recent study of Tampa passenger cruise operations. This study determined that in 2023, there were 249 passenger cruise ships that visited the port. Combined, these generated $537 million in revenue, which equates to $2.16 million per cruise, and generated $17.8 million in state and local taxes. In 2025, we're expecting 372 cruises, which would equate to $803.5 million in revenue. And just today, I heard news that they're forecasting 398 cruises for fiscal year 2026. Now, Tampa is the home port for a vast majority of these cruises, meaning we're not just a port of call, but we get all the arrivals and all the departures. That means a lot of visitors flying in and out of our airport, staying in our hotels, and eating in our restaurants. They're not just here for an afternoon. This results in significant local employment. In 2023, our research shows locally over 1,300 people work directly for the passenger cruise industry, and over 1,500 people worked indirectly for the passenger cruise operations. These people earned over $162 million in salary. Add the freight operations, a completely separate side of the port, and the port provides $35.6 billion worth of impact to the local economy. An additional cruise ship terminal would not only enhance passenger cruise operations, and the logical location would be the port's property at the Banana Docks. However, this requires filling the Banana Docks channel. Hence, the plan amendment request, while filling the channel would normally be considered land creation, in this case, it's actually restoration of uplands, as this channel was originally uplands to begin with, and it was dredged decades ago in the early days to serve those small freighters that no longer fit there. The port still maintains a robust freight operation, but these have moved to other docks and other bigger docks and berths, and the Banana Docks have no more utility. The proposed public, semi-public designation, however, will preserve its use by the Port Authority, who will keep it as a water-dependent use. Once designated public, semi-public, and filled in, the intent is it will be used for new passenger cruise uses. Your staff has prepared a detailed analysis discussing each plan policy and how we're consistent with and meet the intent of the plan. I'm not going to talk about every one of them, but to summarize, the plan recognizes the port as a major economic asset, and our plan amendment request meets all port and port activity center policies, as well as the Port Master Plan vision. Approval of this request will enhance and expand water-dependent uses, and the only place it can be located, there next to Ybor Channel. The request meets all downtown, city center, and channel side policies promoting the redevelopment of underutilized waterfront properties and by promoting additional passenger cruise facilities. Finally, the request meets all environmental plan policies, including, most importantly, as Danny said, the request demonstrates an overriding public interest. This is required whenever a request results in land creation for any use other than designating the land wetlands. The most important factors listed to show an overriding public interest are benefit to public welfare, benefit to economic benefit, project's overall benefit to the community. All those I discussed above. The last one is ecological impact. Since we filed, both the state DEP as well as the local EPC have both approved the port's fill permit and mitigation program, and this should address any environmental impacts. And I have copies of both permits if you guys would like to get a copy of it for yourself. And thank you, and hopefully we can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. All right, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you. We had 2 names sign up for the public comment on this one. To be Jose de Jesus? Okay, and Ed Washington? The same, okay. All right, then we did not have anyone sign up for the public comment on this one, so I will turn it over to the commissioners for discussion, questions, comments, opinions. Commissioner Kugler.
Thank you. Yes. I'm a very small-time boater, kayaker. I'm wondering, what is the purpose for a cruise company to want to fill in a channel? So it sounds like maybe it's a stupid question, but I just don't understand how the cruise industry would benefit from filling a channel any more than, it sounds like knocking a bridge out of a highway project, but it just seems odd to me.
Can we turn on the Omo?
It will come on, I think, automatically.
With City of Tampa, they're our neighbor to the north, and we want to make sure that we keep those lines of communication open. And
First time. I move that TA CPA 2506, as long as it's including the language from objective 1.5.0 and P.
Policy.
Policy, thank you. 1.5.1 be found consistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right. We have a motion of consistency finding, citing objective 1.5 and policy 1.5.1. Is there? Oh, making the change to those two, right. Yeah, to add the base, McDill, to the policies and objectives. Okay. Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
All right. Second by Commissioner Linkus. I don't know why I'm holding this gavel. All right. So we have a motion of consistency finding, a second to that motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions from the commissioners before we take our vote? Would all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. On to our next agenda item, 2D, TACPA 25-07, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 3714 North 39th Street, and the presenter is Emily Phelan.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This is TACPA 2507 located at 3714 North 39th Street. This is privately initiated, small scale. It's approximately 1.08 acres, and the request is to go from transitional use 24 and light industrial to heavy industrial. This is a general location map. It's located on the east side of Tampa. It's located in the Central Tampa Planning District, the East Tampa Urban Village, the East Tampa CRA, and the Jackson Heights neighborhood. This is an aerial of the subject site. To the north, along Lindell Avenue and East 32nd Avenue are single-family detached residences which do face south towards the subject site. Along North 40th Street is a mix of commercial and industrial uses. To the south is a vacant land, and to the west is a place of religious assembly. This is looking at the subject site. This is also looking at the subject site, just a slightly different view. And this is looking north at the intersection of North 39th Street and Lindell Avenue. The subject site is behind the photographer, and this is looking at the single-family detached residences. This is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is outlined in black. On the northern portion in the burgundy color is the transitional use 24 designation, which does extend all the way north towards Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and east towards North 40th Street. The remaining gray of both the subject sites and in the area is the light industrial designation, and to the northwest of the subject site is when you get into the residential future land use categories as well as community commercial 35. This is the proposed future land use map. Again, the subject site is outlined in black and is represented with the dark gray designation, which would be heavy industrial, which is the only dark gray in the area. Under the existing future land use designations, the site could be considered for 5 dwelling units in the transitional use 24 designation only, as the light industrial designation does not allow residential. And it can be considered for a little over 70,700 square feet of non-residential uses. Under the proposed heavy industrial designation, it would remove the residential potential, but the square footage would remain the same as in all the designations. The FAR is the same. This could potentially introduce the heavy industrial uses on the site as well, and the range of uses would be expanded from the light industrial to the heavy industrial designations. This was sent out to all of our agencies, and the City of Tampa objects to this request. The following policies were considered in helping the Planning Commission staff formulate a recommendation: the preservation of industrial, as this site under the heavy industrial designation, all those industrial uses would still be intact. It is not removing any industrial, it is just making the industrial more intense. Overall, the proposed amendment is inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. It is not compatible with the surrounding area, as there is residential in the area, and the Comprehensive Plan speaks to preserving and not having those uses adjacent to residential, and it also encourages neighborhood protection, which with the heavy industrial designation, it could significantly impact the residential uses that are to the north. Overall, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation? Nope.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Catherine Andrews, and I represent the applicant. I'm from the law firm of iCard Merrill. With me in the audience is Philip DeMaria from Kimley Horn, who will also be assisting with this presentation. Today's request concerns 3714 North 39th Street. We're requesting a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment. It's also known as TA/CPA 25-07. And here's some background information on the applicant. The applicant is a Florida-based ready-mix concrete plant. They first started in 2013 with their first location in Placida, and now they have locations in Placida, LaBelle, Fort Myers, and most recently Mulberry, and now in Tampa. So just again, the summary of the request, we're requesting a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment for the property located at 3714 North 39th Street. It's to change the future land use designation of transitional use 24/light industrial to heavy industrial to allow the continued operation of the concrete batch plant on site. So here's just a bird's eye view of the property where it's located. There's East MLK Junior Boulevard to the north. There's North 40th Street to the east, and then to the south is I-4. So here is a closer view of the property and a closer aerial view. As you can see, there is a slight yellow box on the northern part of the property that covers the transitional use 24. The rest of the property has a future land use designation of light industrial. As you can see, the site is currently developed as a concrete batch plant. That's how the current applicant assumed the site when they purchased it. It was already, the infrastructure was already there, the current structures were already there. They just assumed it as is. The property to the north is currently owned by the city of Tampa, providing a buffer that way between the residential properties and the subject site. And there's also the property to the northeast, which is also owned by the applicant, but that's just being preserved as parking, so it is not a part of today's application. There will be no industrial operations that will be on that piece of land. Also, as you can see, I don't know if I can put my mouse up, but you can see there's extensive vegetation along the boundaries of the property that provides a buffer in addition to the actual physical land separation from those residential parcels to the north. I also wanted to, while I have the aerial up right now, staff did mention, thank you, Emily, about the potential for 5 residential units on the property, and that going up to the heavy industrial designation would get rid of those. But as you can see, the property is currently designated as light industrial, so the use as residential development is highly unlikely given the fact that the base current existing designation is already industrial. Sorry. So I just wanted to go through the history of the batch plant. So as you can see, it's been in existence under the current land use designation since 2011. So these are just some visuals to show how long it's been a part of the community. And then again in 2023. So just to emphasize the fact that this has been consistently operating on site for over 10 years, we're actually coming up on 14 years under the prior owner of the property. The applicant actually purchased this property under the belief that the use was permitted. We had applied for a zoning confirmation letter to ask the staff if the use was permissible on site as a concrete batch plant, and we had received a confirmation letter that it was permissible. After the owner had purchased the property, then it was revealed through conversations with staff that that letter was issued erroneously, and as a result, now we are trying to go through the proper channels to bring the use within a lawful use. So we are only asking to continue operating the small-scale business on site as is and has currently existed for 10 years. We are not asking to extend the intensity or the development of the property beyond how it currently operates and what we were told was permissible to operate. So I know you guys can't consider the any other zoning applications, so I just wanted to say that we are requesting that the final determination on this application be delayed to catch up with the rezoning application coming later, because we did a pre-app that considered both of them. So I wanted to provide some context, considering the heavy industrial use typically creates a certain image in your head, typically in line with something along the lines of what we see here down at the port, which is very large scale, very intense. They receive shipments from port and by rail, and it matches what you think of when you think of heavy industrial. Now, this one is 33 acres. As you can see, it's got direct access to the port. It is heavy industrial. But after conversations with staff, it was confirmed that there is no distinction between size or intensity of batch plants. They're just all lumped together under the heavy industrial use. So we didn't really have any other options to request other than heavy industrial. So that's why we brought it forward today. So again, just some basic information about the site. It's currently 1 acre in size. It's restricted to that 1 acre. Materials are delivered by truck. It's mixed on site. There's no crushing, there's no mining. It's just the aggregate is brought in, it's mixed with water, and then it's immediately sent off to local development projects. Again, based off of conversations with staff, there's no distinction between different sizes or intensities of these types of projects. So they're just all grouped together under that heavy industrial designation. Here is the surrounding future land uses, the property that I've highlighted in yellow. There's the light industrial around it. There's a slight teal border that shows the transitional use. And I bring this up just to show another example of another concrete batch plant. It shares the same characteristics. It's about a mile away from the current site. It's owned by different individuals, but it also is under the light industrial future land use designation. It's about 1 acre in size, and it also has existed for about the same length of time as the current batch plant. I bring this up just to show the distinction between these type of plants versus the large scale ones that are down by the port. These ones, they integrate better with the community. They're smaller, they're more contained. They're more of a small scale operation. And now I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Philip DeMaria.
Thank you, Kate, and good evening, commissioners. Once again, my name is Philip DeMaria. I'm a certified planner representing the applicant. Just have a few slides tonight I'd like to touch on. The first is just, sorry about that. The first is just recognizing that what we're typically attempting to do in these meetings is, and through the planning and zoning process, planning process specifically, is achieve harmony between uses and land use types. We've demonstrated that there's existing harmony with this plant, and maintaining this long-standing operation, which has been in place for 10 years, wouldn't have any adverse effect to the compatibility of the plant with the surrounding neighborhood or the harmony of the planning process that we're typically moving through. The next piece is staff did a wonderful job covering comprehensive plan consistency. When you read through the report, there's a variety of land use policies as well as other policies I'll run through that speak to actually there being some consistency with the comprehensive plan, if not a lot of consistency with the comprehensive plan when it comes to recognizing industrial lands and their importance to the city of Tampa and greater Hillsborough County. I'd like to just point out a few of these here on these slides. In particular, the land use policy is 8.9, recognizing industrial lands, their support as key economic engines. Land use 8.91, accommodating a range of employment activity to ensure employment opportunities are available for the city's diverse residential population, including maintaining healthy manufacturing industrial areas. And 8.94, require industrial uses proposed near existing residential uses to have internal circulation systems and other design amenities to limit impact of truck traffic on these residential areas. So they're not inherently incompatible. Through design, we can make them compatible with some of these residential land uses like Kate covered. The next relates to the property rights chapter, which is one of the newer chapters required by Florida statutes to be incorporated within local government comprehensive plans. And really what we're doing here is recognizing that these property owners have rights associated with the uses that they have established on those properties. This is, as it's incorporated into the city of Tampa, I'd like to focus on PR 1.1, which is respecting private property rights in the city of Tampa, and 1.1.1, I probably didn't get that right. 1.1.1. The following rights shall be considered in the local decision-making process: the right of a property owner to physically possess and control his or her interests in the property, including easements, leases, mineral rights, to use, maintain, develop, and improve his or her property for their personal use or for the use of any other person subject to state law and local ordinances. There's also the mobility chapter, the environmental chapter, and the One Water chapter. We want to recognize that this property owner has done a fantastic job cleaning up the site over the last 10 years and providing air quality that is positive and has minimal impacts on its neighbors as we understand it and in our inspection of the property itself. And with that, I'll pass it back to Kate to finish this off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. So once again, I'm just going to reiterate our request today, which is the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to recommend approval, that it be consistent with the comprehensive plan, and to approve the use from transitional use 24 in light industrial to heavy industrial to preserve the existing business on site. And if you have any questions, me and my team would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We had two individuals sign up. Looks like Shannon and Steve Rutherford. Hello.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon, and this is my husband, Steve Rutherford. We own the property next door at 3802 Eastlake Avenue, Tampa. During our experience with the previous landowner, Quarry Concrete, we experienced dumping of concrete byproduct onto our property, which was reported to the city of Tampa, illegal parking, and illegal use of our property to include parking of heavy vehicles and equipment on our property without permission. The new landowner adjacent to our property did not do his or her due diligence in researching this property's zoning requirements for his planned business. He is now requesting that it be changed to heavy industrial because of his mistake in researching his real estate investment purchase. We feel sorry for the new landowner. However, this proposed change in land use will create more noise, increase the environmental impact, and just as importantly, carry a substantial risk of diminishing our property's net value and marketability. We respectfully request that this requested amendment be denied.
All right. Thank you very much. That's all we had sign up in the public comment, so I will turn it back over to the applicant for a 3-minute response period.
Good evening. My name is Simona Brinkman, and I am representative for the property owner. The people that just came up, they're totally right. The company that we bought the property from was a disaster. We've totally turned the whole thing around, and I think that they can attest to that. Corico was, and it still is, because they're still across the street. So if you put up a map of our property that we own, Corico literally moved his place of business across the street, and the street is a very tiny street. So his trucks and whatnot, they're always parked on the street and not on his property because his property is tiny. So when we purchased the property, it was out of compliance, totally out of compliance with EPC, and a disaster. There was a lot of dumping there by Corico. There were numerous violations with EPC. Once we took it over and we worked with EPC on what their needs were, we cleaned up the whole entire property, got an actual generic permit, that's what they're called, generic permits from EPC, and are totally in compliance with EPC. They love us because we run a tight ship. We run a very clean ship, and we want to work with the community. This particular property was being used and abused for 10 years before we bought it. And my owner, who is a legitimate concrete plant owner, he doesn't just do things that will annoy the FDEP or the EPC. We run a very, very clean business because we don't want those problems. We are sustainable. All of our sites are sustainable. If you look at any of our sites, if you go to coastconcrete.net on your computers, you'll see that all of the sites are beautiful and clean and dust-free. We keep very low dust. We use, by EPC standards, it's considered an closed loop system where no runoff goes into the street. There's no environmental impact with our system. So I know that the people that were up here before are upset about that, but we bought a plant that was told to us that we can run it as a plant, and come to find out, and we have documentation that reads that we can run it from staff, but then come to hear that we need a heavy industrial zoning, which is unfair. But we run a tight ship, and they love us. So, just want to say.
Thank you. All right. Over to the commissioners now for questions, comments. Commissioner Sieben?
How did this happen?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Mr. Johnson wants to say anything about what happened with the city, but the first time we've been involved in it was when they came forward with this application.
When she said staff, she didn't mean us. She meant the company staff.
The city staff.
City staff.
I think. I don't know. Let Evan.
I'm always glad to sit back down. Evan Johnson, city planning staff. What my understanding of the site is that they, I'm not sure what land development coordination staff told them. That's a different department. We deal with the long range planning. What I am aware of is that they are allowed to operate the site, and they could get a formal determination of the use, and that is a process where you actually would pay a fee and they, identify. But that has to do with how long the site's been operating in that capacity, and if it predates certain, date benchmarks depending on when the code was put into place. But just to kind of expand upon it a little bit, our concern is that this is an expansion of the heavy industrial use on this particular property, and that was what we articulated in our comments, was that ultimately this would be the only heavy industrial designated parcel within this entire area, and it is immediately, adjacent to some TU-24 single-family homes. And so we have, it's a conflict point, and we don't, it's our opinion that we didn't see an intensification as a good idea in this particular location.
Okay, just bear with me. How would it be an intensification if it's been here since 2010? Right,
Yeah.
but this use, it hasn't changed. So where's
Well, it's allowing for an intensification. If you,
Right.
If it is if they went through the formal use determination process and they said yes, you're a legal use, you can't expand that use because it's a non-conforming use.
So are they currently a non-conforming use, and that's how this has come about?
As they are it is my understanding they are a legal use, legally non-conforming, but they have not had a formal determination of that use. To say that yes, you've met these dates, et cetera, and therefore you are a legitimate use. Regardless, you couldn't expand the use without a land use change. And so when they say they're doing a zoning, which we're not talking about it tonight, and I haven't looked at it, but when they say they're doing a zoning in addition to their land use change, that could be an intensification of a use, and that use could be heavy industrial, and that's our concern.
Okay, just staying on that track. Could I ask the applicant, is there an application to expand the use, or just so we're clear, is this just a definitional, formalization of the existing use?
We're just formalizing it. We're not expanding our use. It's a tiny property, but all of our properties are tiny because we're a small batch plant. We do not have any future forecasting for expanding it because we can't. If you look actually at the plant, you need a certain amount of space for your bins and for the plant itself, and you can't grow. We don't want to grow. This is what we do. We're small, we're petite, and we're able to meet the demands of the developing Tampa, because we, you know, we provide concrete, in a very small footprint. And we don't want to grow, because we could have, you know, said, hey, well, we will buy this property and this property. It's unnecessary. We just want to be in that small footprint, and that's where we're going to stay.
Okay, so the rezoning case that's
The rezoning case is, so the restaurant? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring it up during the initial presentation, but we do have a rezoning application to rezone it to the PD district that allows us to implement restrictions on the property and on the uses allowed on the property. We were also going to bring in the northern parcel that is owned by the applicant to that PD district to designate it solely as commercial parking, so then that way it can never be extended up into the additional land owned by the applicant. So it would allow us to not only involve the neighbors in discussions about the restrictions that we would place on the property, but it would give us the avenue to do so.
Okay, so the application is just for, just so I'm super clear, for what? Why did you, if you were already a legal non-conforming use, then why submit the applications?
To avoid not only code enforcement, but also to allow us to bless the property, so to speak, just because it has been inconsistent with the zoning for so long, and now that we have a new owner, we wanted to bring it under enforceable zoning and future land use designations.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question for the applicant as well. So, did the previous owner have a conditional use permit as well?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so, but you guys are able to operate currently as a business?
Yes.
And,
But we want to make sure that it's clear and that we're working with the neighborhood and with the city to integrate it properly.
no, I understand.
Commissioner Bowden?
Yeah, more of a comment than a question. Considering, should you get this designation, and not taking consideration of a rezoning.
Sure.
Okay, and you sell the property, anyone could come in and intensify the use. So, you know, like being focused on the comp plan, not the rezoning, it gives the property the capability to be intensified. So, you know.
Very good, Commissioner Bowden. I tend to agree with you. All that stuff that Commissioner Sieben brought up, while it's interesting, is largely irrelevant. I'm speaking right now.
I'm sorry.
The commissioners are speaking, so you don't speak until I call on you, so you're recognized by me. As I was saying, I'd have to agree with you that all this stuff about whether or not they want to expand or control or whatever, they could sell the property tomorrow if we make this decision. Somebody could come and put a garbage dump on there if they wanted to, for all intents and purposes. Okay, so let's not get bogged down by what's going on in zoning and what's going on beyond our purview. Our purview is land use. Okay, so let's stay focused. Commissioner Kugler.
Thank you. Yes, I used to live on Lindell Avenue, and I'm very familiar with both of those batch plants that were mentioned. And I'm very amazed at how clean they were. Even bicycling down there, I figured we'd be covered with dust. But that being said, I think the direction that Commissioner Bowden suggested, that it remain as a non-conforming, in practice, designation may be the safest for the future. Because it sounds like that you'd be happy with keeping the operation as it is.
If we weren't,
not even necessary.
If we weren't, like, I think the problem is that the owner is afraid that someone's going to come along and say, well, you can't be here and you can't do this. So, I mean, that's really what the issue is. We paid millions of dollars for something that is looming over our head, that it's an issue. So.
But perhaps the suggestion is that you said you want to have this blessing of it, and maybe that you're already blessed in a way.
Right, Commissioner Sieben.
Do you have any documentation from the city of Tampa, just out of curiosity, that says that that you guys were in compliance? I'm just mostly curious to see if that were put somewhere in writing.
We're pulling it up right now. I'd be happy to provide it in just a minute.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Commissioner Linkus.
I guess I'm looking to kind of understand a little more. I think Mr. Johnson referenced another process that would perhaps be more appropriate and wouldn't require a land use designation change. Could you explain a little bit more about that process?
Yes, Evan Johnson, City Planning. They essentially, my understanding is that they have two options. One, they can continue operating as is with the current use. Two, they could get a formal determination letter, which is just kind of a formalization of the use and more specifically to that site. Those are the two options that they can use to continue doing what they're doing. Now, both of those would still keep them from expanding the use, but it would formalize the use. So nobody would be able to, as we mentioned before, come up and say, oh, you can't be here, right? No, we're illegal to use. But that is a process.
All right, Commissioner Cardenas?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to say, I feel like when we see stuff like this, you know, sometimes we're looking at these things and sometimes we're siding with the applicant and sometimes we're siding with the citizens of the community. And oftentimes it's kind of trying to figure out an in-between. But I mean, this is you know, usually with a heavy industrial, I mean, it starts a trend, especially with this type of area. And, you know, I don't know if this is, you're still being able to operate a business and you're still be able to keep that going. Starting a trend on something like this is not something I think I'd be standing behind and voting for.
All right, all good comments, all good thoughts. Yes, got an answer?
I just pulled up the letter that we initially received from the city of Tampa regarding the zoning, which was that they had told us that the use fell under the manufactured heavy category, and they told us that was consistent with the current zoning of industrial general, which was later found to be erroneous. It's not consistent with the industrial general, which sort of kickstarted this whole process when we tried to talk to staff about it, and they told us that it was an inconsistent use. So I just wanted to bring up the letter that we had gotten. It was from the city of Tampa. Sorry.
So I would just, you know, I realize that we're, you know, here to you know, put our foot behind the comprehensive plan, but, you know, you could make an argument that that's detrimental reliance from the city of Tampa. So, I mean, you know, I would say, I think either we could, I don't know, my thought is maybe we either push forward with this the way that you guys have applied for it, or the city comps them an expedited review in a legal non-conforming use process, considering you know, what they've been through and now the expenses that you guys have incurred as a result of this process. So those are my thoughts.
All right, Commissioner Cardenas?
Yeah, and another thought is, I mean, we vote here on what we vote for, and this still has to go before city council, and if they want to make this right, they can make this right.
All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Ornita?
I would just reemphasize what you all, a number of you all mentioned, which is that changing the land use category changes it forever, permanently, and allows them any use that's within the heavy industrial land use category. So it's not just allowing their specific use, but any of those that might be in that zoning or the zoning category that's allowed within that, which is much more intensive.
All right. All good thoughts and comments from the commissioners and our executive director. Any other comments, thoughts before I close the public comment on this one? All right, public comment is closed, and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this one. Anyone out there?
I can make the motion.
Commissioner Kress.
Let's see. Which number are we on? Is this 2507, I think?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion for inconsistency, TA CPA 2507, in relation to the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Okay. It's a motion of inconsistency finding by Commissioner Kress. Did you have a comment?
Could we maybe amend that motion to recommend something to city council, that they do some sort of expedited review for these people? Is that possible?
I would suggest making that as a second motion.
Yeah. Let's keep it clean. All right. You second? All right. We have a motion of inconsistency by Commissioner Kress, a second to that motion of inconsistency by Commissioner Bowden. Any questions, comments, or discussions from the commissioners before we take our vote? I'm sending it over to a roll call vote on this one.
Bowden,
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Kugler,
Yes.
Linkus,
Yes.
Sieben, Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. Now, Commissioner Sieben.
Okay, I would like to, and I'm going to mess this up, but I would like to make a motion that City Council recommend to city staff to do maybe an expedited and all gratis review of TACPA 25-07 in order to find them in legal use territory.
Can I,
It's not a
can
very
I
good
ask
motion.
Mr. No, that's okay. No, it's good. I just, at Mr. Johnson, what is that
It
process?
was a formal determination.
Formal determination, so that's what I think we want to make sure is in there.
Right.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
You can't read my handwriting.
You
You want me
have
to
to
read it
read it,
again?
yeah.
Okay. That you send a letter to Tampa City Council recommending an expedited and gratis review of a formal determination to determine legal nonconformity.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would say okay.
due to a detrimental reliance on determination.
We're going to get all kinds of presents from the city council this year. We're going to be their favorites.
Well, just, I mean,
Well, they can disregard us. We can write a 5-page letter and they can disregard us, so, you know.
May I?
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I didn't see the letter that was referenced here, and I just want to make sure, because there are letters that are sent out that are advisory only, and that really don't have any legal binding. So I don't know if that's the case, or if it was a formal zoning determination, and so there's like the formal letter, and then there's kind of the advisory letter, and the advisory letter is very inexpensive and quick. So I don't know what that letter was, so I just wanted to put that out there, since you were making a statement
Right.
about what the city
Right.
of staff may or may not have done.
so even if it's an informal advisory letter, right, does somebody still pay for that letter, or even if they pay or don't pay, I assume people should still be able to rely upon those letters.
It's explicit on the application that you can use it as advisory only. So I'm not from the city attorney's office, but it is very clear on the form itself if it is an advisory review only. So levels of due diligence, if you will. So maybe there's an initial level that would be the $100 advisory opinion, and that's something that can process very quickly, versus something that is a little bit more formal that has to get different sign-off.
I would hope that the attorney's office would still want any advisory letter to, hold some weight. But maybe we could, I did word this very, very badly, so maybe we could say, a letter to the, City Council recommending an expedited and comped review in order to make a formal determination for legal nonconforming status. That sounds better.
So you revise that motion to that?
Yes, I revised the
All
motion.
right. Do you accept the revised? Okay. Did you have a comment, Commissioner Linkus?
Yeah,
or-
if we can discuss. I guess,
Yeah.
without having seen that letter, and I don't know if it's possible to show it, it seems a little concerning to kind of move forward without, evidence in that sense, because I think this process of the formal designation has always been available, and the applicant could have pursued that as well. So, and the applicant certainly has rights if they had an incorrect finding issued to them. I think there'd be a lot of ways to act upon that rather than seeking the future land use change. So I'm not sure that the process has been negligent, but it'd be nice to at least see evidence before we kind of counter-react in a strong way.
Commissioner Kress?
I'll just add that it seems like they've been a good neighbor, and we know how important it is to preserve industrial businesses like this, so this feels like it's a good compromise to me. You know, I guess history is history, but I think we'd all like to see this business survive this. We just need to find the right path for them to do it.
Well, the city of Tampa probably needs to find the right path because we've taken our action already. So, but yeah. So, yeah.
I just didn't know if you wanted to see the letter.
All right, go ahead.
I mean,
We're here. You may as well.
Okay. This was just the letter that we received from the city of Tampa. Don't know if you wanted additional comment on it or not, or just wanted to see it.
They're just nosy.
Yeah.
Let's zoom into the red.
All right. All right. Enough.
Can you read the red print into the record?
I can, if you would like me to.
I think since we've gotten into this issue of,
Okay,
of the letter,
sure.
I think
Got
that
the
would
attorney
be
in on
appropriate.
this. All right, go ahead.
So pursuant to Florida Statute Section 166.033, the issuance of this approval does not in any way create a right on the part of the applicant to obtain a permit from the state or federal agency, does not create a liability on the part of the city for the issuance of the permit if the applicant fails to obtain requisite approvals or fulfill the obligations approved by a state or federal agency, or undertakes actions that result in a violation of state or federal law.
All righty then. So we have a motion for a letter. We have a second to the motion for the letter. Anybody have any questions, comments about the motion to the letter to the city that's before us?
That letter that we're talking about doesn't have to be contingent on getting a copy of that letter, I don't believe. Is that correct?
No.
There's no need, okay.
No,
good.
yeah, it's
We
two
can just
separate
move
issues.
forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So no questions or anything, then I'm going to take a roll call vote on this letter sending.
Bowden,
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Kugler,
Yes.
Linkus,
Yes.
Sieben, Joseph.
No.
Motion carries 6-1.
All right. On to our next agenda item. I don't even know if we're going to make it through them tonight. 2E, TACPA 2508 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 2306 North Boulevard, and the presenter is Meg McCarthy.
I know.
Good evening, Meg McCarthy, Planning Commission staff. This is the presentation for TACPA 2508 located at 2306 North Boulevard. The application amendment is a privately initiated small-scale request, and the site is approximately 0.17 acres. The request is to go from a residential 10 future land use designation to a residential 20 designation. The subject site is currently located within the Central Tampa Planning District and the Ridgewood Park neighborhood. This is an aerial of the subject site and the surrounding areas with the subject site outlined in pink. The surrounding area is a mixture of uses, including single family, I don't know if you can see my mouse, single family detached to the north and west. To the south is some vacant land scattered, and to the east is a mixture of single family detached and single family attached. Starting with our photos, this is looking directly at the subject site. This is looking north along North Boulevard with the subject site on the right-hand side. This is looking south of the subject site with the subject site to the behind. Next is looking southeast along North Boulevard, again with the subject site behind the camera. And finally, looking down the rear of the alley behind the subject site. This is the adopted future land use map with the subject site shown outlined in black in the current residential 10 future land use category. The subject site is also located directly north of the R20 category as a result of the adopted TACPA 2219. North and west of the site is the R10 designation, and to the east you'll see the R35 designation. This is the proposed future land use map, again with the subject site outlined shown in black in the proposed residential 20 category. Next, under the future land use, currently of residential 10, the site can be considered for 1 dwelling unit, and this could also be considered for 2,591 square feet of commercial uses subject to locational criteria. Under the proposed R20 designation, the site may be considered for 3 residential units and 3,702 square feet of commercial uses subject to locational criteria. The proposed R20 designation would result in an increase in commercial intensity and residential density and would allow for multifamily uses. Any non-residential uses would be subject to locational criteria, which is expanded under the R20 designation. The application was also sent to our partner agencies, and there were no objections to this request. The proposed amendment is recommended to be found consistent with the policies and objectives in the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, including compatibility with the surrounding areas. The proposed amendment was found consistent with existing townhomes in the R35 designation to the east, as well as the existing R20 parcels to the south side of the subject site. Additionally, encouraging adequate housing supply by finding the amendment consistent with infill development policies. The planning staff recommends that the proposed amendment is found consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. Oops, skip that one.
Is there an applicant presentation on this one? Yep.
Good evening. My name is Angela Rauber with Hillward Henderson. Here on behalf of the applicant. Is my presentation up next? That one? Thank you. Is it showing? Help me out. Okay. Now you can see. It's very simple because, you know, this one's pretty straightforward. This is really about balance. As you can see, the intent here is to bring that the existing R10 in line with the R20 to the south and create that balance point between the R35 that is to the west without, and still having a lower or higher density from the properties to the west, which are residential, and the properties to the east, which are higher density. The intent here is for additional residential housings. In fact, it's for a single 2-unit, single-family attached dwelling unit. And as you can see, this creates a transition from the single-family attached townhomes, and there's already existing single-family attached townhomes in the area. The property to the south is currently already zoned R20. The R20 allows that sensitive transition. This is textbook planning to create that buffer along North Boulevard and to be consistent with what's around it and what's happening in this area. The request has received no objections from anybody, any of the reviewing departments or agencies. It has received positive feedback from everyone. City of Tampa and the Planning Commission staff have all recommended a finding of consistency, and we hope that you do as well. I'm here for any questions.
All right, thank you very much. We didn't have anyone sign up in the public comment for this one, so I will turn it over to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussion items. Not seeing any, then I will, oh, Commissioner Cardenas? No? Oh, I will open it up to motion, close public comment and open it up to motions. Commissioner Cardenas.
Make a motion to make CPA 2508 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
All right, a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Cardenas, second to that motion by Commissioner Kugler.
Yes.
All right. We have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Cardenas, second by Commissioner Kugler. Are there any questions, clarifications needed by the commissioners? Not seeing any, then would all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. I'm excited, can you tell? To have TACPA 25-09 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 2602 East 7th Avenue and associated parcels, and the presenter is Quinn Steele.
Do we want the applicant to come up and make their request? Yeah, this is the first of the three.
Good evening, Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive. I had planned on this before being here, but we want to give these next three as a single presentation. They all have significant subject matter overlap and staff concerns and rebuttals. So if it's okay with you, we'd just like to give it all at once, and then we can talk separate geographies if that works for you.
Well, yeah, that's fine. It's a little bit different. We're still going to vote on all three. You're only going to present
ask you to
once.
vote three. Yeah, for the lawyers, let's vote three times.
Right.
But if I could present once,
that's
I
fine.
think that would be
Yeah, you can waive your other presentations or however you want to handle that.
consider
Like,
them waived. Yeah.
Yeah.
We only
okay.
have one presentation, so
Tra-
I was
oh,
hoping you were going to say
I
yes.
see Tracy moving.
Well,
You invoked his
and
name.
I
so.
assume, and you should incorporate this in your request, that you want to have the entire, the applicable portions of the presentation incorporated into each one of the record for each one of the plan amendments.
Precisely, that's the request. All right. But with three separate votes, if that's okay with you guys.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be quick.
Can I
You make
ask,
that
do you
clear
want,
when
do
the
you
time
want
comes.
Sure.
staff to do their presentation on all three in a row? And then, or do you want staff to do do them separately? I think they're prepared to
Yeah.
With Steel Planning Commission staff, we have three separate presentations, and we also were aware of this request, so we do have one combined presentation if we wanted to do it that way as well.
Either way works for me. All right, one combined then.
All right. All right, Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff, TACPA 2511 was Danny's amendment, and the other two were mine. This is a map amendment for multiple folios in the East Ybor area. The request before you is privately initiated and small scale, covering approximately 50.35 acres. The request is to change the future land use designation from light industrial and general mixed use 24 to urban mixed use 60 and community commercial 35 for 2509. And then for 2510 and 2511, the request is to change the future land use designation from heavy industrial to urban mixed use 60. Here's a general location map for all three amendments. They are within the Central Tampa Planning District, the Coastal High Hazard Area, and the Port Activity Center. 2509 and 2510 are within the historic East Ybor and Gary neighborhood, and then 2511 is in the Palmetto Beach neighborhood. Additionally, 2509 and 2510 are within just 2509 is within the Ybor City Community Redevelopment Area, the Urban Village, and the Local Historic District. Here is an aerial photo of the subject site, which shows all three amendment sites. They are located in proximity to the CXX Railroad, which runs right down the middle of the site here and all along the eastern boundary of the subject sites. This serves as the main line connecting to the port. This red dashed line marks the boundary between the heavy and light industrial designations to the east and the general mixed use 24 designation to the west. It also serves as the boundary for the Urban Village Local Historic District and the CRA. To the west, we see a mix of residential, light industrial, and commercial uses. And to the east, the area is predominantly industrial, including warehousing, manufacturing, and a cremation center. And then north of East 8th Avenue, where land is designated residential 20, we see single-family detached homes. And then just calling out to the southeast over here is the IKEA. So I did add labels to here so you can see which photos relate to which map amendments. This is looking south on East 7th Avenue towards the subject site for 2509. Looking east along East 7th Avenue, the subject site is on the right, and this is the portion within the GMU 24 designation, as well as the historic district. This is looking north along East 7th Avenue towards the subject site. And these are the properties to the north along East 8th Avenue. And then finally, the last photo for 2509, this is looking south on East 7th Avenue. It's near the Selman Connector. The subject site is on the right, and this is the CSX rail line that borders the eastern boundary of the site. This is a photo starting with 2510, looking east on East 2nd Avenue. The subject site is on the left, and on the right is the vacant plan amendment site for TACPA 1709, which was a plan amendment to the Urban Mixed Use 60 designation. This is looking north on East 4th Avenue towards the subject site. And again, looking north on East 4th Avenue towards the subject site. And looking north at the intersection of East 5th Avenue and North 26th Street. This is directly west of the subject site. Finally, the last photo for TACPA 2510. This is looking south on East 4th Avenue near the Selma Connector. Again, this is the eastern boundary of the site that borders the CSX rail line. In the first photo for TACPA 2511, this is looking northeast at the subject site from North 26th Street. Looking north along North 26th Street, and the subject site is on the right. Looking southeast at the subject site from North 26th Street. And looking northwest from the intersection of East Adamo Drive and North 26th Street. Finally, this is looking at the IKEA located directly west of the subject site. The map shows the site's current designations for TACPA 09 and 2510. The designations are heavy industrial, light industrial, and general mixed use 24. Surrounding the site to the northeast, east, and south are heavy and light industrial designations. To the west, we see GMU 24 and CC 35, with residential 20 further northwest. There are 2 pockets of UMU 60 to the south, which were plan amendments back in 2017. This one includes the Lecter 85 apartment complex, and this is that photo that we saw earlier, TACPA 1709, which remains vacant. Lastly, the most of the site is with the coastal high hazard area, with the exception of the westernmost parcel. This map shows the proposed future land use as urban mixed use 60 and community commercial 35. The light industrial land and the heavy industrial that's going to UMU 60, and the general mixed use 24, which is going to CC 35. And then this map shows the TACPA 2511. The current land use designation is heavy industrial. Just to the north, we see TACPA 2510, which includes heavy industrial lands with 2 pockets of urban mixed use 60. To the southeast, we see light industrial, and then further south, we see residential 20 and residential 10. And then directly west is the IKEA site, which sits under community mixed use 35. And then this is the proposed urban mixed use 60 designation for TACPA 2511, which would allow 60 dwelling units an acre or 3.25 FAR. And with that, I will hand it over to Danny Collins.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I'll take it over from here. So the next 3 slides will go over the impacts of each individual amendment. So our first one is TACPA 2509. Currently under the adopted future land use designations, the site can be considered for 14 dwelling units or approximately 484,822 square feet of non-residential uses. As proposed, the request would allow for a maximum of 429 units or just over 1 million square feet of residential or non-residential uses. This would introduce the consideration of residential uses on portions of the site designated light industrial and would eliminate the potential for industrial uses across the entire site. Overall, the commercial intensity would increase. Our next one is TACPA 2510. Currently, under the adopted future land use, the residential cannot be permitted. It can be considered for just over approximately 1.3 million square feet of non-residential uses. As proposed, the subject site could be considered for approximately 1,238 dwelling units or approximately 2.9 million square feet of residential or non-residential uses. Like the last one, this would eliminate the potential of industrial uses on the site and overall would increase the commercial intensity on the site, as well as allowing the consideration of residential uses. Our last one is TACPA 2511. Under the adopted future land use of heavy industrial, the site could be considered for approximately 456,000 square feet of non-residential uses. Residential uses cannot be permitted in the heavy industrial designation. The proposed future land use of urban mixed use 60 would allow approximately 1,337 dwelling units, or a maximum of approximately 3.15 million square feet of non-residential or residential uses. This request will introduce the potential of residential uses on the site while eliminating the potential for industrial uses. We sent this out to our partner reviewing agencies. The City of Tampa objected to all 3 amendments. I believe Evan is here to speak on those. EPC also provided comments for 2509 and 2510. Specifically, they had comments regarding the potential incompatible uses associated with commercial industrial uses adjacent to residential. And then also we had comments from the school board regarding Blake High School is projected to be over capacity. The Planning Commission staff reviewed this request for consistency with the comprehensive plan and found the following policies applied to the request. Those were promoting mixed-use development. The urban mixed-use 60 designation would promote a more mixed-use development pattern in the area. It was also the request. All 3 requests were consistent with policies related. The city's housing policies related to meeting population needs in the future. However, the Planning Commission staff found the request inconsistent with policies related to industrial preservation. As you could see in the previous slides, this would remove a significant portion of industrial lands throughout the city and within the Port Activity Center. This request was also presented compatibility and concerns, and we had concerns with neighborhood compatibility. Introducing high-density residential adjacent to industrial uses does have some compatibility concerns, and the plan speaks about those concerns, and those concerns are highlighted in our reports. And finally, the request was found to be inconsistent with the coastal high hazard related policies. The plan seeks a no net increase in residential density within the coastal high hazard area. This request, all 3, have the potential of significantly increasing the potential for number of residential units within the coastal high hazard area. We took all these policies into considerations, the ones for and against, and overall we found the policies that spoke to neighborhood compatibility, preserving industrial land specifically within the Port Activity Center, and policies related to public safety associated with the coastal high hazard area outweighed the benefits of mixed-use development on this site. And based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff recommends that all 3 map amendments be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. I am available for any questions. If you don't have any, I know Evan is here from the city for comments.
All right. Thank you very much. You can sit down, Evan. It's not time just yet. The applicant still has to do a presentation, and we still got to have public comment, so there's still some time. Very good, Mr. Collins and Quinn. Good job. You went through that very quickly, 3 in 1.
Good evening again, Commissioners. My name is Tyler Hudson, and my address is 400 North Ashley Drive. I appreciate you all being willing to consider these all at once. So I think we're pretty familiar with the geographies from north down to south. You can kind of consider this well, kind of place 1, place 2, and place 3. If you have any questions about any of these, don't hesitate to reach out. Preservation, that's a word that comes up a lot in this staff report, preservation, about industrial land, about preservation of what's imagined to be compatibility now. I would ask that we kind of zoom out a little bit when we think about what preservation means, and that you think about how we preserve an ability to grow and to accommodate the population increases that we've seen recently, where those people are going to live, where they are going to work, how they get between those 2 places. That's really the audacious charge that you all have before you as trying to regulate the entire built environment through a 300-page document. I think if anyone was here in the 90s, that this on screen here would be incomprehensible to you. It would defy imagination. The idea that in the Channel District, in the arena area, land that was really industrial in name only would one day have this much thriving residential, just residential use at all, much less the enormous amount of commercial, office, and even industrial-like uses that still remain there today. That's filled up now, as we know. So let's talk about growth. Everyone knows everyone's coming to Tampa. So the past couple of years, the inbound population to the city of Tampa, not the MSA, not the county, has been around 10 to 12,000 people. And while net migration has dipped a little bit in the last year or two, it is a fair assumption that about 5,000 people have moved to the city of Tampa, since New Year's Day of this year. Where are they going to go? This one policy on screen is why we are filing this, because all the lands that are before you are prohibited to have residential development. You might consider them industrial only lands. These are residential prohibition zones. On not one piece of this land could you obtain a permit for anyone to live, and we think that's wrong. This commission and the city council have for years now approved developments that generate a very clear path of growth that runs eastward from Encore, where hundreds of people now live, to Gasworks, where hundreds of people now live, and that's with one apartment building open. There's 4 still under construction. Eastward into Ybor City, which is seeing significant growth. So what happens next for East Ybor? That's what we call sort of the lands that comprise these 3 different amendments. This is the most important slide on screen. The vocabulary of this staff report and of the staff presentations was of loss. This vocabulary of loss, what we're losing industrial lands. If you look at the Venn diagram of zoning uses that are allowed in CI, which these amendments would preserve, in light industrial, it nearly looks like a full circle. The uses on screen are all still allowed. They are not lost. Mini warehouse, wholesale trade, light manufacturing. It's very easy to throw around the term industrial uses in the comp plan without any thought of definition and how it's actually implemented by the zoning. That's how it's implemented by zoning. There are dozens and dozens of industrial uses that are preserved, are not diminished. They are in no way impeded by your passage of this amendment. And you can let people live here, which you can't now. The uses that are lost, heavy manufacturing is not on here, correctional facility, explosive storage, hazardous materials, junkyard, landfill. Those are HI uses. Those would be lost. They're also wholly inappropriate to be on the border of Ybor City. This land has changed. And I think as you have noticed, there are not many neighborhoods in Tampa that are keen on having more neighbors. The fact that we are trying to generate this significant amount of opportunity for housing and we have a fairly empty room, I think is significant. And I'll probably bring this back up again because the entire vocabulary of this staff report, I'll get to coastal high hazard in a second, is this notion that industrial uses are lost. That is untrue. The industrial land use category might be lost, but it's replaced with a mixed use category that has a host of economically productive uses. So let's talk about industrial preservation. That is not the only type of use that generates employment. I think that's where some of this comes from, this notion that we need to preserve, quote, industrial uses, because it's job creating. It's not a park. It's not just an apartment building. But mixed use commercial, non-industrial uses create jobs too. Some of the data we looked at shows it can create twice as much. And that's per acre. That's not magic. That's just geometry. You can stack other types of uses in a way that you can't with industrial. Some industrial uses are inherently single floor or even just ground plane only uses. You can't have a 2-story landfill. You cannot, it's in 2-story warehousing, manufacturing can be challenging too. The market gets to vote, and it votes with its feet and it votes with its wallet. And the industrial market, the heavy industrial market has been voting, and it's been voting a lot, and it's moving eastward where the land that they need for their type of use is in greater abundance. It's near major transportation centers, near the interstates, things that the land here does not have, especially the amount of mixed use development that's at the doorstep already. And finally, on this industrial point, I would note that the crosstown connector has created an enormous, I think, physical and functional boundary between what is predominantly industrial and what is emerging as mixed use. We think a lot about how T75 kind of artificially divides downtown from the Heights, and the Heights from the Heights, and the Heights from Ybor. That's 200 feet wide. The Selman Expressway, the crosstown connector, is 432 feet wide. That is more than a psychological barrier. That is an enormous physical, as real can be, buffer that separates the emerging mixed-use pattern of development in Ybor City as it grows eastward with what is a very different development pattern east of the crosstown connector. You can see on screen here that significant right-of-way vacatings and an entire graveyard of CSX abandoned rail spurs has completely changed what the area east of the connector looks like. That is a development pattern that is exceedingly hard. That's a Humpty Dumpty, he's too broken. You can't put that back together. By contrast to the west of the crosstown connector, on these lands, either the grid already still exists, such as the 6th Avenue CSX corridor, which has significant potential for some type of non-train usage. And even to the south, those are portions of land that can be knitted back together into a coherent grid that promotes, yes, light industrial uses that are still permitted under CI, there are dozens of them, and commercial use, and office use, and residential. Residential is prohibited, again, in the entire area that we're talking about, 1 block away from Ybor City. I'm going to skip that. Okay, let's talk about something called the coastal high hazard area that you all might have heard of. From what I can tell, there are really 2 rationales behind this no net increase in the coastal high hazard, and it's about shelter space and it's about evacuation. But not all portions of the coastal high hazard area are equally hazardous. We dealt with the same issue with Ybor Harbor, I would say, on both, which this commission and city council supported, both the industrial preservation concern and coastal high hazard. There are 3 shelters within 3.5 miles of this land that we're talking about. This isn't the southern half of MacDill Air Force Base. This is different land, and you owe it to the people of Tampa, I think, to treat this differently and look at the actual land and where it is. There's a reason we talk about location, location, location. You cannot put every single piece of land that shows up in the slosh model as coastal high hazard area as equally hazardous. It's wrong. Let's talk about evacuations. This geography is probably one of the easiest pieces of earth in the city of Tampa to evacuate from. You are right at 3 major evacuation routes, and you're quite close to a 4th with I-275. They are designed to evacuate people, and they have those little blue signs. To question whether the CHHA is or to state that the CHHA is a hindrance to this amendment, I think ignores where this land is. This is not the same as the bottom of the Inner Bay Peninsula. I talked about this earlier. It's important to note that any new development that happens in this area is certainly, there is not a lot of adaptive reuse opportunity here as these businesses move away, and any new development that's going to occur on this site is going to have to meet all of the Florida Building Code and floodplain prevention standards that are numerous and enormously costly for businesses to comply with. These will be far safer and more resilient buildings than what's there now. Okay, so let's talk about compatibility again. What you can see on screen is the teal area is already mixed use. That purple area to the north is predominantly residential in nature, Res 20, I think mostly a little bit of GMU that might still be a remnant there. And then you have on the purple star right there, that's a 285 unit apartment complex. It's next to Coppertail. It's across from IKEA. What development pattern do we think is more likely to prevail there in the years to come? It's not what's there today. To the east, by contrast, you have a cohesive and a coherent cluster of industrial use that is buffered by 3 major roadways, and which presents enormous headwinds when it comes to any type of mixed-use redevelopment there. To find this inconsistent is to find that people shouldn't be allowed to live near the purple star, and that should be a residential prohibition zone in a city that has encountered enormous population growth and a seeming inability to find many places in other desirable parts of the city that are willing to accommodate that growth through the political process. You have a lot of housing goals, and I'm not going to go through those. So this is really, this tells the whole picture. CBD, Encore, Gasworks, Ybor City, Ybor Harbor. The path of growth in this area is not subtle. It is very obvious, and it's been encouraged not just by this planning commission, but by Tampa City Council through a raft of comprehensive plan amendments that have done this same thing. They have changed residential prohibition zones that only allow industrial use into mixed use land use designations that allow for, I'd say, probably 85, 90% of the overlap of what we would consider, quote, industrial uses, and you get people. And you get the ability for people to live in this area near the emerging employment centers that we expect to cluster here in the years to come. In my opinion, this is not a close call. On the one hand, you have the opportunity to preserve significant numbers of commercial and light industrial uses and allow for homes and townhomes and apartments and whatever modality of housing people may choose in an area that's adjacent to an established residential neighborhood. That's what you get if you support this and advance this. When you deny things, you preserve things. When you deny things, you keep the status quo as it is. To keep this as a residential prohibition zone next to this many employment centers, when you already have significant dense multifamily in this area, this is not coming out of complete nowhere. Look at Lecter. I think it would be very short-sighted in light of the enormous population growth that this city has seen to date that we haven't accounted for or built our way out of, and the growth that we think is going to continue to come. That's it. I appreciate your time. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on any of the three pieces. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. We did have some folks sign up in the public comment for 2F, so I'm going to let them go ahead and get their 3 minutes apiece in. Only two individuals. First, I have G. Gonzalez. German Gonzalez. You want to speak? All right, then Pilar Gonzalez.
Pilar Gonzalez. Okay, my English is not that good. When I received this paper, I was worried because my property is next to the one who they want to change as a residential. We have this property 15 years ago because it's a hotel for dogs. On 7 and 26 Pilar's Pet Resort. I started as a pet sitter on Harbor Island. One day I have 24 in my apartment. They find out, so you are doing a business that is not legal? And I say, no. So my husband went to the city, and that business has to be in industrial zoning, cannot be residential or commercial. So we are afraid that because they are going to change, because Tampa is growing this way, yeah? So they're going to change as a residential. So I don't want that to hurt my business. My dogs, they are inside, outside, we don't have cages, suites, no. And we live there as a resident managers, we live with them. So I don't want this to affect. Who can tell me something? Do I have to worry what I'm going to do now? I wish I had, but the more sound and, ¿cómo se dice ruido?
Ruido, sound.
The more noise is the train, okay? The train pass at least 5 times during the day. And they ring the bell? No. They whenever so hard because they are going to cross 26, yeah? And that's a toy for our dogs. They hear before us and they run to the patio, they bark, and then they come inside. So, I love that Ybor City is going to roll that way, but I don't want them to hurt my business. Please.
Ma'am, can you repeat your name for the record?
Pilar Gonzalez.
Thank you.
All right.
And my business, Pilar's Pet Resort.
Thank you, ma'am. All right.
Save my dogs.
That's all we had sign up in the public comment, so I will turn it back over to the applicant for a response.
Good evening, Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive for the record. The last thing we would ever intend to do is shut down a business. So I will get your contact information, and I'm happy to speak with you after. The land use change that we're seeking to UMU 60 would still allow for large and small kennel use. Those are both CI uses. So that's about the proximity. To be clear, we're not proposing any changes to this lovely woman's property at all. But certainly understand the concern. You know, UMU 60 sort of sounds like, oh, that's just going to be Midtown. Without going into details of any implementing zoning here, there's going to be an enormous non-residential component to this area. As I said, and I don't have that slide, but hopefully it's burned in everyone's imagination. The number of they are industrial uses that are preserved with UMU 60 is, I think, close to, again, not close to 90% of what's allowed now. So that includes uses like that. If you approve this, it changes nothing about the ability of someone to have a hospital, to have an animal shelter, to have light manufacturing, to having a host of job-creating uses. It's just going to also allow people to live there. You're going to bring all these job-creating uses, but right now no one can live in proximity, which runs afoul of so many policies and goals and objectives in your lengthy comprehensive plan. So I will get your contact information, but I promise you nothing. This will not affect your business at all. I know I'm just a lawyer guy, but let's see. That's really, there's been no questions. I have nothing else to rebut. But I appreciate your patience, and again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Over to the commissioners now for some discussion. Oop.
Did you want to hear from the City of Tampa staff?
Okay, sure.
I think they had planned to give their presentation.
Oh, did they have a
as part of the
presentation? Oh,
staff,
okay, sorry.
Or their comments. I don't know.
It's been a long day, I guess. So I just had a couple of paper slides because, I'm old. How do I set it like this? All right. There we go. So the City of Tampa, as was mentioned earlier, did object to all 3 of these amendments. And I think at the end of the day, we've had a lot of conversations with City Council and City Administration over the last year or two. And I think we always have to come back to this is a major policy decision. At the end of the day, this is close to 50 acres. It's a little bit over 50 if you include the GMU parcel, which we didn't really have any questions about that particular amendment. It's possibly 3,000 additional dwelling units. Or if you did mixed use, it's 3.7 million square feet of stuff, mixed use stuff. And that's in addition to what is already allowed from a square footage perspective out there. It's the size, give or take, of Gasworks, but it's further away from downtown. It's closer to it is heavy industrial, which we don't have over in Gasworks, which was mostly a former mix of residential and some light industrial uses. So we have concerns about that, and so we want to remind the commission, just as I will remind City Council, that it is a major policy decision. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It's nearly impossible to replace. Of course, I bring this slide up the night that we had a presentation where somebody was trying to designate a heavy industrial lot. But it still stands. And particularly this close to the port, it's in the port master plan area. It is, and while it is not, does not have water access, it is still close to their interest and what's going on in that area. There's a lot of things that really can only happen within heavy industrial uses. And yes, I agree that maybe not all of them are happening at this moment, but it is something that we have concerns about. I know that the coastal high hazard area has been talked about. I don't need to talk about it too much, but this is in the coastal high hazard area. The entire amendment, with the exception of, I believe, the GMU, which is 26th, is in the coastal high hazard area. It's got proximity to our historic districts, and while we are not talking about zoning tonight, we are potentially talking about significant intensification. And I think that that's something that we need to have a conversation with, and we will, with council as well. So finally, our objection, as we mentioned in our staff comments, was really focused on preserving the industrial land, directing to development to less vulnerable areas, particularly residential development, and making sure that we have some consideration of potential impacts of that intensification next to our historic districts. One more thing I wanted to point out, the map, I do not have the map, but the map that was shown a little earlier about the barrier that the connector makes. I just want to point out that on the east side of that connector, there is residential. It is in the northwest corner, much like it is in the northeast corner on the west side of that connector. So residential does exist, so it really isn't all industrial on the east side either. The industrial generally hugs the south part of that area, of both areas on both sides of the connector. So with that, I just wanted to, I'm here for questions. Thank you.
All righty. My apologies for cutting you off. I thought you ran up earlier to answer a commissioner's question or something like that. When I saw
Not
you
a
pop
problem.
up there, I was like, what's he doing up there so early? I'm just not used to it. All right. So over to commissioners now for questions, comments, discussions of this one. Commissioner Seaman, I guess all three of them, because they're
Yeah.
all technically open.
I think that was an excellent presentation, and whoever it may have been that hired you should give you a pat on the back for it. Because I think you made a fantastic argument about industrial. It held a lot of weight with my decision making here tonight, and I think that's really important. I just want to mention that if it were to happen that the prohibition on suggestions for projects in the coastal high hazard area were to continue, then we wouldn't even be able to hear about projects like this that could potentially really help our city, that it seems like people might really want. So I just wanted to highlight that, and then also, like, thank God for 3,000 additional units, because I've been up here, whining about the fact that there's so many people moving here and we need affordable housing and nobody can afford to live in Tampa, and this is right next to a downtown and a bunch of offices and just more places for people to be able to live and hopefully afford. So.
All right. Commissioner Cardenas.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to say the same. I think could be something great. I think these are the types of things that City of Tampa is looking for, our citizens need. As we're trying to increase, as you can tell, we're trying to increase density in these neighborhoods. Well, then it's a pushback, right? But then obviously we need industrial area, but at the same time, some of these areas are their location and what's happening just makes sense. Other than that, señora, usted no se tiene que preocupar de nada. Lo que usted quiera, su negocio puede seguir ahí sin problema. Sí, no se preocupe.
Commissioner Kugler.
Yes, we actually decided to take a bike ride around all these properties that were on the discussion today, or right now. And some of the properties look really great in there. Tampa Steel, Coppertail Brewery, but it obviously, it reminds, a lot of the properties in that area look like what I remember back in New York in the Rust Belt. And some of the things are eyesores at this point, serious eyesores. The only pause I have on the project is really the coastal high hazard, but I do know Florida builds in the coastal high hazard up and down everywhere. You name it. And there are techniques of building that are successful for that can help protect some of the coastal high hazard. We also took a little spin from there down into Palmetto Beach. There's a brand new 5 set of townhouses, even closer to the water, Clark and 26th Street. And I like a lot of what this project proposes. I am not a betting person on big manufacturing coming back, because I did grow up in New York, and big manufacturing has moved on in the world, on the planet. And I'd say if you're going to be able to satisfy people's wishes and help with resources, housing, and jobs, and so on, it may be commercial. We may be blindsiding ourselves to wait for the dance invite from manufacturing for 20 years. And meanwhile, we have somebody right now who's interested in moving on this. So that's my thoughts.
All right, Commissioner Kress.
I'll just sort of echo what we've heard. I was here when we voted on whether the El Lector space made sense for residential. You're smiling, you remember that. I think we had both inconsistent recommendations from staff and from the city, but I guess we probably voted for it. I know obviously it happened. I do think with the growth projections, this area makes sense to me. So I'll be supporting it.
Commissioner Likas?
I'll echo a lot of similar comments, and I just want to say, as someone who's studying the CHHA policies around Florida right now, I do think that you accurately told the story that this is about evacuation, and that this is a site that's really well suited for that, and the opportunity to build better and new housing there is a benefit for the community.
I saw you moving, Ms. Ornita.
Well, I was simply going to add that in the, I can kind of sense where the commission's going, and I may be not convincing, but I just wanted to add that in the plan update, we did very specifically identify not only some areas within the coastal high hazard area where we thought additional development was appropriate, and this was not inside that coastal development area, but we also identified the areas where we did think growth was appropriate, the regional activity centers, and certainly this has proximity to that. But I mean, while I understand some of the uses may still be allowed to occur under the UMU 60, I think the likelihood of some of the types of uses that are allowed in a heavy or a light industrial occurring in proximity to residential or as part of a mixed-use development is very unlikely. It's going to be very different types of uses. It's going to be uses that are serving that residential. Maybe it's going to be professional office, but it's not going to be the same types of uses because they're not compatible. The folks who came and spoke echoed some of the concerns that staff raised about the fact that introducing residential near existing industrial and heavy industrial uses is what we call in planning coming to the nuisance. And the residential folks are gonna start complaining about the fact that there's a crematory nearby. But that crematory is located in the right spot right now. And so at any rate, I can kind of sense where this is going, but I just wanted to add those comments.
Commissioner Bowden, I'll come back to you, Commissioner Stephen.
You know, as I listen about, you know, we need additional housing, we need more for residents. There's people moving into the city constantly, but no one really touches on, you know, the people that live in the city that doesn't have any housing. You know, I know that should this pass and everything, and there's new housing, they're going to price the local people out of the housing. So, yeah, it benefits people that come from the north, that have the monies to actually afford it, but it really doesn't do anything for the local residents. So that's kind of my, you know, the thing that I see. You know, all the plans, you know, sometimes you hear about, and really can't get into this, about the variable housing that is planned, but my experience and what I've seen is in certain areas that really doesn't happen. So just want to make that comment, put it out there for the utilization when you move to the next level.
Good point, Commissioner Bowden. Yes, Commissioner Seaman.
I just wanted to speak to Ms. Zornita's point. So this area sort of reminds me of Silo Bend in Nashville. I don't know if you're familiar, or like, what Seminole Heights used to be. And it feels like, I don't know, people who are living here, who are attracted to these kind of areas, kind of like the mixture of uses, maybe in a way that's a little bit more uncommon and, we don't see all the time, but I could see that being the case in an area like this. And that's just part of my thought process.
I'll just say for my part, because I sit up here smiling a lot and not saying much. I was here, like Commissioner Kress said, back when that UMU went through, and I think what it was staff actually found it consistent, and Planning Commission found it consistent, and there were maybe like me and a couple other commissioners who were like, no, we shouldn't do this. It's precedent setting, and years from now, it's going to cause us indigestion. So when you see me sitting here smiling now, and you hear Ms. Zornita talking about what happened, it's because exactly what I said back then has come to fruition now. And unfortunately, Mr. Tyler, I disagree with you. I don't believe necessarily that this area is going that way. I think there's a lot of undercurrents and things going on, including what the Planning Commission just did in making that a port activity center area. So I think there's going to be a jostlation and a fight for that area. I don't know who's going to come out on top right now, but I don't think it's just clearly residential. And if it is residential, there's going to be the problems that Ms. Zornita talks about as it develops forward. And it can happen. It's happened in places all around America. We talk about Detroit, New York, and all these other places that have gone from heavy industrial to residential, but they had to deal with some things in that changeover, and we're going to have to deal with those things too. So I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but for me, it's kind of the same point I made years ago when the first lot changed. I think we should look at it like you did, holistically, as an agency, as a county, and say, okay, if this is the way the area is changing, let's really make it change that way instead of this piecemeal kind of thing. To me, when you're piecemealing around heavy industrial, it's kind of dangerous, you know what I mean? And it gives me a little bit of pause. So I'm not as excited as the rest of my commissioners, and I probably won't be supporting this, but it does look like Ms. Zornita said that you might have the support, so kudos to you anyway, you know what I mean? But on a personal level, I think even if this gets approved, another 10 years from now, you and I will probably be having a conversation, and I'll be like, remember when we were sitting in that meeting and I told you? But we'll see. So those are my 2 cents on the whole thing. Commissioner Cardenas.
The funny thing is I grew up in Chicago, and at a certain point, I think I was like 30, and I was living in Chicago, and I was living on a second floor right on a main street, like right in an industrial area, and I loved it. I loved the sound. I loved all that stuff. So I think it's definitely one of those things where Tampa's growing in a way that we're just not, if you're from here, you're just not seeing it. Or you just haven't lived in it, or you haven't been in it. And being somebody who, has lived in kind of that mixed type of spaces, I kind of need the sound sometimes.
Commissioner Lickes.
I just want to thank Ms. Zornita, because I think your points are very important. And some of what we've looked at tonight does suggest to me that not anytime soon, because I know the plates are very full with staff, but that there may be a need to look at sort of our industrial categories and see whether they make sense given some of the bigger changes happening in the region. And I see this area as a place where it makes sense to kind of see some changes. And but I do think we need to be really careful about making sure that the kind of businesses that have operated here will still have a place to operate. So to me, the whole meeting tonight suggests I'll look at the industrial zones broadly and see whether we've got the right categories.
And we do study industrial zones a little bit ever since I raised that fuss all those years ago. Yeah.
Yes, you called for that first industrial land study. And I just wanted to point out, because David's chatting me, that staff did find those amendments to UMU 60 inconsistent, but the Planning Commission supported them. So.
Okay. Huh. Yes, Commissioner Kugler.
Just a little point, and I don't know if I heard it right or heard it incorrectly, but I think at the beginning when Mr. Collins was introducing the three, the trio, mentioned something about this would overwhelm Blake High School, and I was thinking, wait, am I in the wrong place in the city? Have I got the wrong map? Because I didn't see how this area connected with Blake, but maybe there's a connector between that and Blake. I figured they'd be going to an one of the Ybor schools, or maybe the Philip Shore school. Philip Shore is not it either. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
Blake High School has a very large area boundary, and even though, like you said, it has adjacencies. So even though Blake High School may be filled, there are adjacencies, that schools around that can count towards the property. And usually downtown area, these high rises, you have 1-2 bedroom apartments, possibly 3, but the children aren't there. And if they are 5-6-year-olds, maybe kindergarten, first grade or something like that, so we don't get a whole, even though the numbers show it, because we have to use the same generation rate as we use for the county, that we use for the city, those numbers are so different.
Okay. So I heard it right. It was Blake. Thank you.
All right. Are there any more questions, comments? I should mention that if we're going to make a motion against staff, which is inconsistent, we'll need some policies, but I'm sure Ms. Sornita's been working on those, hopefully. So, any other question? Did you have a question or comment, Commissioner Sieben? Okay. All right. Any more questions or comments before I go ahead and shut it down? All right. Then I will go on ahead and close the public comment. Oh.
She's got some. She's ready
I
to
got
go.
one.
Oh, okay. Well, we got to get this to the clerk and the lawyer now anyway. It started, so.
No, different one.
Oh, it's the same one from last time.
Is it?
No, it's a
No, it's
different one.
not.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, so I am opening it up to motions now from the commissioners on the first one. This is TACPA 2509.
Okay. I make
Yes,
a motion
Mrs.
to find TEA CPA 25-09 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, given Land Use Policy 6.1.11 and Objective 1.1.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a consistency finding, a consistency motion by Commissioner Sieben citing policy 6.1.11 and objective 1.1, and that was seconded by Commissioner Cardenas. Oh, Tracy?
Just for clarification, and that would be incorporating all of the presentation that was made for purposes of this motion.
Correct.
For purposes of this particular amendment.
Right. Incorporating both staff and the applicant's presentations
Yes.
into
Correct.
this motion. Okay. So motion of consistency finding, second to that motion. Are there any questions, comments, discussions? Cardenas. Are there any questions, comments? No? Then I will turn it over for roll call.
Bowden,
No.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Kugler,
Yes.
Linkus,
Yes.
Sieben, Joseph.
No.
Motion carries 5-2. Commissioners Bowden and Chair Joseph voted no.
All righty. Now we're going to open up TACPA 25-10 for motions. Commissioner Sieben.
I move to find TACPA 25-10 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, given Land Use Policy 6.1.10 and Objective 1.3.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. It's a motion of consistency finding citing policy 6.1.11, objective 1.1, incorporating staff's presentation and the applicant's presentation into the motion. And a second to that was given by Commissioner Cardenas again. Are there any questions, discussions from the commissioners? I will turn it over for a roll call then.
Bowden,
No.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Kugler,
Yes.
Linkus,
Yes.
Sieben, Joseph.
No.
Motion carries 5-2. Commissioners Bowden and Chair Joseph voted no.
All right, TACPA 2511 opened up for motions. Commissioner Seaman.
I move to find TACPA 25-11 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, given policy 1.3.1 and objective 9.3.
Objective 9.3 and policy 1.3.1. That's the motion of consistency funding by Commissioner Seaman.
Second.
All right, incorporating the presentation of the applicant and of staff. And we have a second to that motion by Commissioner Cardenas. So again, that's a motion citing policy, motion of consistency finding citing policy 1.3.1 and objective 9.3. All right. Any questions, comments from the commissioners before I turn it over for a roll call?
Bowden?
No.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Kugler?
Yes.
Linkus? Yes. Sieben? Joseph?
No.
Motion carries 5-2. Commissioners Bowden and Chair Joseph voted no.
All right, on to our last agenda item, and hopefully we can get it in before 10. 2I, TACPA 25-12, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 3618 West Euclid Avenue, and the presenter is Quinn Steele.
All right. Again, Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. Today I'll be presenting TACPA 2512, which is a map amendment for 3618 West Euclid Avenue. The request before you is privately initiated and small scale, covering approximately 0.31 acres, and the request is to change the future land use designation from residential 20 to community mixed use 35. Here's a general location map. The subject site is located within the South Tampa Planning District in the Fair Oaks, Manhattan neighborhood. Here's an aerial photo of the subject site, which is outlined in yellow. To the south, you see Britton Plaza. To the west, along West Euclid Avenue, are commercial and residential office uses. And then to the north and the east are single-family detached homes. This is a photo looking south on West Euclid Avenue. The subject site is the vacant parcel, and further south is Britton Plaza. These are the residential office uses to the west along Euclid Avenue. These are the properties to the north across West Euclid Avenue, and the property directly east of the subject site. The site is designated residential 20, which is outlined in black, which allows up to 20 dwelling units per acre. If locational criteria are met, it may be considered for limited commercial neighborhood or residential office uses at a 0.5 FAR. To the south is Britton Plaza, which is CC 35 in red. Immediately east and west is residential 20, and to the north is residential 10. And then further east and west on Dale Mabry and Himes, we see community mixed use 35. This map shows the proposed future land use as community mixed use 35, which would allow up to 35 dwelling units an acre or a 2.0 FAR. Under the current R20 designation, the site can be considered for 6 units or just over 6,700 square feet of non-residential uses if locational criteria are met. With the proposed CMU 35 designation, that could increase to 10 units or just over 27,000 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. If approved, the amendment would introduce the potential for commercial general uses and increase the potential density and intensity on the site. The proposed amendment is recommended to be found consistent with several objectives and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, including the promotion of infill development on a vacant site and the compact city form strategy. And it also promotes density supportive of transit and a mixture of uses, as the subject site is located just north of Britton Plaza, which is a major commercial hub and a heart transfer center, as well as just east of Dale Mabry Highway, which is a transit emphasis corridor. With that, the Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that concludes my presentation.
Is there an applicant presentation?
Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. I won't spend too much time on the location. I know Quinn set this up well. This is located just adjacent to Britton Plaza. This is a street view. It's that vacant parcel when you're coming down Euclid next to the Britton Plaza access point. Currently vacant land today. As many of you know, Britton Plaza recently went to market. It was acquired by Brixmor Property Group. They're a nationally recognized owner and operator of these open air shopping centers. They have about 360 centers nationwide in their portfolio. They are traditionally commercial developers. Again, we're just filing this because we want to keep those commercial general uses that are permitted in Britton Plaza, we want to be able to extend those across the entire asset, which just also includes this small out parcel stub out. This is the request. And we feel there's inherent justification for this. There are, and I can't remember if Quinn mentioned this, but a lot of those parcels that are located along Euclid already function as either small commercial, neighborhood serving commercial, or office establishments. We don't think that a single family home is compatible on this site, just given the fact that it's adjacent to that highly traveled access point for the shopping plaza. And we do feel as if it furthers some of the goals, policies, and objectives of the comp plan. Just a small sampling of what you're on the screen today, mainly addressing local and citywide demand for retail and services, as well as appropriate transitions between the adjacent neighborhood and the plaza, as well as promoting employment as well. As staff mentioned, they found this application consistent, and we respectfully request that the board do the same. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. All right. We didn't have anyone sign up for the public comment on this one, so I will turn it over to the commissioners, who look so excited right now. Commissioner Sieben.
Can I make a motion?
Oh, okay. Hang on for just a moment. You're super excited, huh? All right. Any more comments? Not seeing any. I will close the public comment on this one and turn it over to Commissioner Sieben for motions.
Motion to find TACPA 25-12 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, given policy 1.
Oh, you don't need to. You're agreeing with staff. You're good. Yeah.
Disregard.
All right, we have a motion for consistency finding. Is there a second out there? All right, Commissioner.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Kugler seconds that motion of consistency finding. Are there any questions from the commissioners? I think I can go ahead and do this one. Would all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And at 9:42, good night, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is adjourned.